All right, everyone, we are live. What up, what up? Just going to carve this down a little bit. Say hello when you get into the room. I got a bunch of admin work to do today, so I thought I would sit down for another session of one-on-ones while I get some of this work done. Interesting. I need to cut that a little more. Oops. Finicky. There we go. All right. And feel free to ask me anything in the comment section, you guys. Share the stream. Oh, I should probably do that first. All right, tweeted. Get it out on Facebook. Down. Say hello when you get into the chat. We'll see what the shadow banning's like today. You gotta love it. I'm gonna pull these out so we don't get that messed up. Okay, awesome. What up, Conrad? Wait. Discard. I already posted there. Just getting my shares out. I'm gonna go live on Facebook as well. A lot of work to do today. We'll post in the Science Network. Feel free to ask me anything, you guys, when you do get into the room. Any questions you might have. Of course, at Pangburn, we're focusing on promoting the Celebration of Science and Reason Tour right now. We got Vancouver, Montreal, and Calgary on the calendar thus far. We will be adding a Toronto date very soon. I can't announce who's going to be involved in that, but it'll be Lawrence Krauss with a very special guest. And when I say very special, like one of my living heroes. So I'm excited for that. What up, Ape? The Trusty Ape podcast is back. Make sure you guys drop a like when you get into the room. Drop a likey. Yeah, lots of admin stuff to do. Got to book some more flights today. Hotels, it'll be easy. And then I just need to see. Probably most people are at work, Conrad. I would think. I looked at my analytics from my last live stream, and like out of our 100,000 subscribers, here's the crazy thing. Well, we're at 100,300 or something right now, I think technically. But here's the crazy thing. Like YouTube's been through like 5 or 6 times to call out any inactive accounts. So they've done that. And they've told me that like there is no, like they don't see any signs of any more inactive accounts that they need to pull out of the subscribership. So and then I look at my analytics. It's like, okay, so my all the subscribers on this channel, according to YouTube, are active users of YouTube. So I go live, and only about 500 are being shown the live stream. And then, your chances of getting people who are available to sit down and engage during a live stream. So my question for YouTube is why are only 500 being shown the stream altogether? That's the part when people talk about like shadow banning. I think it's see, my whole problem with the way YouTube is set up is it's set up for clickbait. Like, yeah, sure, I could get thousands of people in the room if I played the clickbait game and just started doing like talking to people about Sam Harris versus Jordan Peterson, or Jordan Peterson versus Matt Dillahunty. The Trusty Ape says, I'm almost 15,000 words into my draft essay on reconciling naturalism and philosophy. It's been an adventure. Hey, I would love to publish that. Well, I'd like to read it first, but if you're down, I'd like to publish it at the War of Ideas once you get it to a place that you're happy with. That sounds interesting. But yeah, I mean, going through this adventure with YouTube, and of course going through this legal process. Conrad Kopek says, by the way, I'm new here, found you from the Matt Dillahunty debates. Yeah, so I've worked with Matt a lot. I produced many events featuring Matt and other speakers. I'm glad you found the channel. I mean, YouTube seems to work against us in many respects with regards to trying to attract new people. Like if you watch our daily subscriber count, it's I mean, according to YouTube, we get, and this is a weird thing, like according to YouTube, we get like, maybe 50 to 100 new subscribers per day. But it's like it seems like we lose 25 as well. So like the growth is way slower than it should be. But when I look at the analytics and try to make sense of like, okay, what videos did we lose subscribership over? And I know some of it is like people are used to echo chambers, and Pangburn is the anti-echo chamber, and I think a lot of people don't realize how addicted they are to echo chambers. So they're just like, I'll put out a video criticizing the trucker protest, right? And the people who are breaking laws. And then I'll get a whole bunch of people come over like, yeah, fuck the truckers. But then I'll release a video of like, some salient point that Jordan Peterson made. Then they're like, Jordan Peterson's a neo-Nazi. What are you doing? And then they'll unsubscribe. So it's... I'm going to take this just 2 seconds here. Hello? All right. Yeah, guys, I'm going to be doing some admin work while we sit here today, and I'll answer your guys' questions. I'm also hoping to get some people in for 1v1 discussions. Zachary Miller says, haven't they also auto-delete subscribers before being inactive or whatever? Yeah, they do. Like I said, like YouTube's gone through and called, and I don't know if that happens frequently. I'm sure it probably does. Because I know, but here's a weird thing. Some of our subscribers have subscribed, hit the notification bell, and then they come back like a couple weeks later and they're not subscribed anymore. So I don't know. Like I'm not trying to paint up a conspiracy theory. There's something about the algorithm and the way that YouTube works that I'm not quite understanding yet. And it seems to me that the reason for this is that I'm not playing in this like clickbaity, like going, like I'm not going for entertainment on this channel, you know? I'm trying to purely have it focused on the discussions. Like I don't want to, like I look at some of these other channels, these young, I guess people are calling them debate bros, and they just kind of scream and yell at each other, and then they get thousands of people in the room because people like to see people screaming at each other. I don't want to promote that style of discourse. Like we run a fucking tight, clean ship at Pangburn in our Discord server. That preaches good faith, helpful discourse. So I want to maintain that on this channel. I don't want to have to fall into some kind of like, oh, you better play nice with the algorithm. But yeah, you guys do click that like button when you do stop by. But yeah, it's strange, right? Like even today, just I put in the title, you know, the topics, Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris in the topics. And right away, according to YouTube's algorithm, like we should be getting thousands of people in the room when I go live for this. And I get it. Like some people might say, well, like, you know, just because they came to watch Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris video, like that doesn't mean they're a fan of the Pangburn brand. And it's like, I get that. I understand that. There's going to be a percentage of people who will still stop by and like click, but the click rates just aren't there either. So, but it doesn't help if YouTube's only showing like 500 out of our supposed 100,000 subscribers that we are live. Like, how are we going to build any kind of audience whatsoever? So, yeah, I'm there's going to be some creativity. Like I'm going to try some different creative ways to get larger audiences in the room for these live streams. But, you know, it seems like that, like YouTube is saying based on how their system runs is that I have to play in this game of like clickbaity shit and, you know, which I don't really want to do. I just want to like go live, have conversations on here, and then eventually produce the large-scale discussion videos as they are produced. Conrad Kopek says, are you still doing big venue stuff? Yeah, if you go to pang-burn.com, you will see what we are currently doing. We are promoting a celebration of science and reason featuring Lawrence Krauss, Sabina Hassenfelder, and Arvin Ash. If you guys don't know who Sabina and Arvin are, check out their YouTube channels. They have great physics communication channels. And, you know, I came to know them through those channels, so I highly suggest checking those out. They are the people who are featured in the poster to the left of the screen. And, yeah, click that like button when you guys get in. I need to call Air Canada and get them to call me back. Conrad says, oh man, I know your pain. I run a small 6K photography channel, and F me, is it a pain to get new people in the chat? Well, yeah, it's weird, right? Like, I don't know like how many. Why is someone messaging me and calling me Tony? Jesus. Leave me alone. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Like I've been playing with this a lot. It seems I'm twice as likely to get live viewers if I had a hashtag in my description. Okay. Let me put hashtag hashtag Jordan Peterson. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to continue to play with the algorithm a bit, and I know when I was putting out the short conversation clips, um, like promoting daily discussions, those did quite well. Like they're one of them's got 50,000 views already. So I mean, I got to do more of those. But like when it comes to these live streams, I want to kind of brainstorm. I want to learn more about how I can make these live streams more successful for the channel. Um, and from what I see when I look, it's like they have these clickbaity titles of like so and so pwns this other person, and then you click on their video and it's just like people screaming into their mic like, "No, that's not what you said. You said this, and you're a fucking idiot because you did this and you did that, and you got fucking beef with that person, bro." And hashtag Elon Musk, Vosh, and Destiny, and like, and then I see this like culture of these. I hate to say it, like some of these channels are producing this terrible culture of all the ways you shouldn't engage in intellectual discourse. These people where ad hom attacks like, oh yeah, you really pwned that guy when you like attacked him for this breakup he had with this girl. It's like, what are you like? What is this? Like, is this really like and they're being called debates? Like, is this really the standard? May I ask if you have people who fund your debates, or is it all somehow free? I have investors, people that invest on a project to project basis, sometimes in a lump, a group of projects. So I have to do a lot of fundraising. I'm not a wealthy person. I live a penniless existence as a philosopher. Hopefully, I'll sell a few books one day. But yeah, no, I mean, Pangburn, the Pangburn brand is about, really about 5 years old. So, you know, I think we've made a lot of great progress, even through the pandemic. Made a lot of important contacts during that time, and of course, we weren't able to produce any live discussions. I think the podcast is getting a lot better. I think I am improving in how I approach my conversations on the podcast, and I've had just amazing guests. I just had Sabina on my podcast, by the way, so do check that out. Make sure you guys drop a like when you get into the room. We're just talking about business today. I have some things on my to-do list that I have to get done. And then eventually, if anyone wants to do a bit of a one-on-one discussion as I work, that's cool too. I got to call Air Canada and get a call back because I got to do some flight bookings. Is it sad that I have all of the Air Canada prompts memorized? Zach says, "Yeah, I've hit the bell and never get notifications until after the live streams are done and published." See, this is what I'm talking about. Zach, how long have you been subscribed to this channel? Like forever. You've been here since the beginning. I just want to get a call back. Like, I mean, I just got my monetization back for this channel, and I don't know if I don't know if that history has hurt the channel and the ability for us to. Okay, hang on a sec. I got. I'm just booking a call back with Air Canada here. Travis Pangburn. Wow. The wait time to get a call back from Air Canada is 1 hour and 20 minutes right now. Nuts, man. Yeah, if anyone wants to chat with me live on the air, one-on-one, you can join our Discord server. I'm giving you the Discord link here. You'll see me sitting in the just go down and sit in the waiting room, and then I will pull you up when I have time to chat. I'm gonna pin this. Make sure you guys drop a like. There's 9 of you in the room now, which is a miracle for, how these. So the last live stream, yeah, it was about 500 people that saw that we were live out of our 100,000 subscribers, and yeah, and I mean, like, there were a lot of people who clicked and only could stay for a few minutes. It was in the middle of the day, but and I'm sure that it would be more optimal to go live in the evening, at least from a Pacific time perspective. But yeah, playing with the algorithm here, seeing what we can do. We will have John Parker doing a conversation later today. Depending on what the topic is, I think we will have that live on our main channel here. But yeah, I'll talk to John about that. Oops. There we go. Okay, I got to make sure I have my ringer on for when they call me back. Which groups get most triggered by Pangburn content? Everyone does. That's the thing. Like, the turnover of our subscribership is insane, and we tend to only hold on to the centrists, which is a good thing. Like, the people who like to engage in confirmation bias do not last long at Pangburn as a subscriber. Like, they just can't stop getting triggered unless I happen to be posting something they agree with, and then they're like, yeah, you got this one right, and then they'll stay around for a little bit longer. But yeah, anything relating to when I talk about anything political, like, people just want to subscribe to, in general, people just want to subscribe to things they agree with, and or they're subscribing for, like, entertainment purposes. But it's just, yeah, I mean, people get triggered over, like, a big triggering was, like, my disagreements with these people who were breaking the law during these trucker protests. And I was, I wanted them to be, I want them to be charged and arrested if they're going to be blocking roadways. And that's my position. And that really triggered a lot of people. Yeah, that Batman guy, I don't think he's come back since he appeared on my Test Your Skepticism episode. Okay, yeah, we're going to be discussing the Ukrainian war at 5:30 p.m. Pacific today with John Parker. We will be live on this main channel for that. This is an important conversation to have. So you can look forward to that later this evening. Yeah. Okay, flights, they're going to call me back. I want to see if... Make sure you guys drop a like if you're hanging out in the room. Really appreciate it if you do. We're trying to figure out why YouTube is only showing about 500 of our supposed 100,000 subscribers are live streams. Okay. Well, see, Traherne, I just, when it comes to any issue, I just want to see the claim that's being made and the demonstrations for this claim. Is it an is claim? Is it an ought claim? Obviously, if it's an ought claim, well, at least I don't believe that there is an objective ought. So we're going to have a conversation about values and ethics at that point, subjectively. But when someone makes an is claim about what is going on in reality, like someone makes a political claim like Donald Trump did this while he was in office. Well, we investigate it and see if it's true or not. And if someone's saying he lied about this, and then you look it up and then it's like, no, actually it looks like that thing he said was true. Or it looks like you're right. The thing he said, he was either mistaken on, on the facts of that claim, or or yes, he was being deceptive and lying. So it's just like, I don't care who is saying what. I care about the claims and the demonstrations behind the claims. That's what I care about. I don't care about, these people who profess, they're a new political leader. These are the values of my party, and then they lay them out. I don't necessarily believe when people say this, when they're going to be going into office. Of course I have to, as a voter and a person who, partakes in democracy, there are certain things that I do that get my vote, right? Like, for instance, the Conservatives got my vote. Yeah, Drone Racer, no kidding. The Conservatives got my vote in Canada last run because they were looking to invest a 1.4 billion, I think it was, on replacing MRI imaging equipment and buying more MRI equipment for Canada from a federal perspective, and it's something we really need and it's really important. So that issue alone was enough for me to cast a Conservative vote. And in Canada, I think both the Conservatives, Liberals, they're basically kissing lips on most issues. There's very, very few issues that are polarizing in Canada. And I just, compared to American politics, there's just nothing going on in Canada typically. Of course, we've had this, we've had some civil unrest due to the COVID mandates. Some people disagree with them. And but that's really big news for us. Yeah, Drone Racer, 9 watching out of 100K. Yeah, of course. Like what the fuck? Yeah, I guess I could turn on. I'll turn on the live stream on Facebook as well. What's a live discussion you guys would love to see? Something I haven't produced yet. What do you guys think of Penn Jillette? I've always really liked Penn. Okay, I'm just going live on Facebook right now as well. If you guys didn't know that if you guys don't know, I produce music as well. You can find my YouTube channel dedicated to my music. Just search Travis Pangburn Music, and I also have a SoundCloud as well, where I've uploaded some of my original tunes. Okay, I'm going to post. I need the title for this. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, you guys, please do drop a like. Yeah, no kidding. It's like COVID numbers here. Like, what the fuck? Okay. Now I think I'm able to go live on Facebook. What up, everyone on Facebook? We are live. Welcome, welcome. We're hanging out on YouTube as well. If you guys want to come join us on YouTube. That's where all the chats are going on. All right. All right. So that I'm actually going to. No, I can't. I can't cross that off yet. Where's my working window? Here we go. Anyone who's tuning in through Facebook, feel free to join us on YouTube if you wish. Okay, now I have that working. Okay, we're good. Zach says Penn Jillette is the best a man can get. Yeah, he's pretty awesome. He loves poning God believers. Okay. Okay, we'll respond to that. All right. I want want to see their upcoming events. Venue. I wonder if I'll get lucky with this. Let's see. Ooh. We might get lucky with this. Unless it's not a public event. All right, I got 3 holds on those 3 Tuesdays. That should be good for... Okay. Yeah, guys, feel free to ask me anything while I work here. Got a bunch of stuff to get done today. Just waiting for that and all right, cool. All right. Nice. Anyone on Facebook? We are live on YouTube right now. Just got a bunch of administrative things to do today. Booking some flights, hotels. I'm going through some archive footage today. Some old footage that I'm going to be releasing some archive video clips on this channel from past events. There'll be some Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris backstage behind the scenes clips. Yeah, and then I'm still just working on locking in a venue for the Toronto event for the Celebration of Science and Reason tour. But yeah, if you do stop by, feel free to ask me anything. Okay. Let's see. All right. I want to go. Let's see what we got. It's always good when you can, if you are producing events, guys, it's always good to try and get a hotel close to the venue. Even within walking distance is very nice. It really does make things less complicated. It depends on the level of security too, though. Like for your event, some people are kind of insane, so they'll like book a bunch of hotels around and try to figure out where like celebrity speakers are staying. I've had some weird experiences where I'm like checking into a hotel and someone runs up behind me and puts their arm around me and they're like, "Yeah, let art and science inspire." And I'm like, "That's weird, man." Mm-hmm. Well, isn't that something? Mm-hmm. Wow, a lot of 3-star hotels in Montreal. What's your guys' favorite hotel to stay at when you travel? When I travel, I like to I like staying in like Airbnbs. I usually prefer that. Well, I guess it depends. Like, okay, how many blocks is it? That's actually not very far away. This is a weird. This is a weird. Like they're calling the Marriott a 3-star hotel. I guess. You know, I've gotten really good deals through using Expedia, like when you're doing bulk purchases, but trying to get, um, like if you have to make a change or if you have to cancel a room booking, like through Expedia, it's nuts. Noir says Love Hotel. What is a Love Hotel? Is that one of those hotels that like has like you walk into the room and it has like 18 different types of dildos sitting beside the bed and like a heart-shaped jacuzzi and you know, a vibrating bed? Is that what you mean by Love Hotel? Let's go to their website. Very nice. We're gonna the Fairfield. Joss, feel free to ask anything. Anyone who wants to speak with me live on the air is free to do so if they come and wait in the one-on-one waiting room on Discord here. You guys will find that. Um, Noir says they always invite their friends to it. Make sure you guys subscribe if you're not subscribed yet, and drop a like. Josh Renfro says, "Do you think circumcision violates the doctor's oath? Is it immoral to perform cosmetic surgery on a non-consenting children?" Yes, I agree. And I do think it actually does violate the doctor's oath. I don't think doctors would be doing it if they read the if they knew that it was a violation. Of course they wouldn't do it. I don't think they're doing it because they're like, fuck ethics. They just don't understand that it's unethical. Yeah, it is immoral to perform cosmetic surgery on a non-consenting children. Yeah, of course. Drop a like if you guys are in. Let's get it up to 10 likes. Let's see if we can get this stream cooking here. Yeah, like I said, if you want to jump into the one-on-one room with me, you can chat with me while I'm doing some hotel bookings here. Of course, I'm not going to give you guys too much information. I don't want you showing up knocking on my hotel room door. Okay, I'm first going to do this one. Wait, one. Okay. That makes sense, because arrive, leaving. What's in that night, and then that night. One. Yeah, that's right. 222. Noir, you can we can talk about any topic you want to bring to the table. What do I think about those who think peace is boring? I mean, look, if you're a person that gets a lot of excitement and pleasure out of war times, or the fantasy of war times. Usually this is like a fantasy that they don't really know what they're talking about. This usually comes from people who don't know what they're fucking talking about when it comes to what war actually is. Like you will find some like hardcores out there that are like, oh, I need to get back into action. When's the next war gonna start? Like that. Like, you'll find some people like that, but yeah, I mean, to say that peace is boring. I mean, I would challenge them to look at, like, okay, when you have peace, it's really the opposite of boring. It's like you have everything ahead of you. You don't have this, constant nagging and worry of war coming at you. It's just, at that point the world's your oyster, right? That's a yeah. I as a well-beingist, my moral foundation being maximize well-being for myself and those around me, I want people to engage in things that are going to maximize well-being for themselves and those around them. War is not that. Now, not to say that there's never a justification for war, but yeah, there are things like, building a business, or collecting firewood for an elderly member of your family to make sure they have enough wood to get through the winter. Taking your family on a trip, doing something nice for other people. Like there's just like an endless amount of different things you can be doing to maximize well-being for yourself and those around you. And war gets in the way of that. War is a necessary bad based on my moral foundation. And war is not like a necessary part of humanity. There have been long stretches, there have been stretches of time where, we haven't been at war, right? Yeah, we tend to fall into conflict, kind of once in a while, and it used to be more frequent when we were kind of carving out the global map of this planet and how human beings were going to be distributed culturally. But yeah, I think the quality of living has gotten to a point generally around the world. Generally, there's some pockets where things are still very bad, but generally where there's too much to lose. People want to kind of focus on maximizing what they do have. So, and it's a really weird step what the Russians are doing right now, because I think many people within Russia are just saying, like, we don't want this war. Like, let's just focus on what we have and making it better here. We don't need the Ukraine, under Russian control. Like, let them have their sovereignty. It's like, I think a lot of people are like, we have this beautiful, massive country and force here. Let's focus on making it better, as opposed to, trying to expand like it's fucking ancient Rome. All right. Jess Renfrew says, it is better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Sure. All right. Let's see here. For myself, I usually get the the cheapest room I can find in order to help save a little bit of money. Standard rates. Oh, okay. I see. I highly suggest, if you guys are ever going to produce your own live discussions, which I hope some of you do. I want more people to be taking a chance and producing live discussions around the world. Like, out of the Peterson Harris series alone, like, think of the amount of education and good, important intellectual discourse that has been born out of those conversations. Like, I try to show investors and people who want to start their own production companies, try to show them how important this stuff is, and how important it is. Once you got to build into your model that you will eventually release these discussions for free, for people. You obviously, you want to create business models where you can sustain doing what you're doing. But I'm saying, build into that you will eventually release this content and these discussions for free, because people need to hear these. People need to hear intellectual discourse. They need to hear examples of how to engage in good faith discourse, and also how to disagree. There's a way of disagreeing that is going to benefit humanity, and there's a way of disagreeing that isn't, from a well-being standpoint. Zachary Miller says, would you, what up, MLG Frog? What up, everyone? We're just getting going here. Make sure you drop a like when you get in the room. Zachary Miller says, would you rather bang a beautiful woman with male genitalia or Vin Diesel with female genitalia? Oh, man. That's a good one. Would you rather bang a beautiful woman with male genitalia? Yeah, I don't want anything to do with male genitalia sexually, so I'm going to go with Vin Diesel. I'll take Vin Diesel for 500, Alex, with female genitalia. There we go. Oh, we got Mace in here. Mace disagreeing right off the bat. Rock and roll. Okay, I think I'm going to book these rooms. Wait, cancel your reservation. Okay, they have a... But yeah, what I was getting at, you guys, like if you do this, I know it's a little bit more expensive to book like refundable flights and refundable hotel rooms and things like that. Always do that because, look, in these live discussions, you might have to cancel. There's many reasons why you might have to cancel a live event. Undersold is one common reason why events get canceled. Someone gets injured or someone gets sick and they can't make the date, so you have to cancel or postpone. Those two reasons alone should be enough for you to say, oh, okay, I need to have that cancellation policy in place that doesn't absolutely burn my ass. So yeah, 100%. Let's continue with this. Is it going to... Oh, okay, guest information. I thought it was going to force me to like sign up for something. Canada. Oh. Interesting. Oh, okay. They have that set up this way. Psh, my keyboard is doing something here. All right. I'll get to your guys' questions right away here. Da, 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 da. Oh. That's a really funny question, Zach. Yo, yo, how's it going? The Navekian unit. How's it going, man?
I'm fine, thanks.
Cool, cool. What's on the menu for today?
I wanted to ask when the question that you're asking about war.
Yep.
The person is seeing things ahead of time
Mm-hmm.
and where the direction where things are going and see that it's a bad direction and they're doing things to to try to prevent it from going in that direction the best they can. Is can that be viewed as in a sense in fighting war? Because you could see the country, or you can sometimes you can see things doing that already, and you're trying and in the battle of ideas, right? And what you're trying to do is in reality is talk things out as a means to avoid things getting worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and when things get worse, they could potentially lead to war in escalation.
Okay, so what's
I'm
your
saying
what's your claim?
you could be fighting a war at a different point by seeing the bad direction of things are going in having the outcome be different, because that's that when you're fighting a war you're trying to achieve an outcome, and it could be through military in it going up to a point of escalation, or it could not be in where you're doing things beforehand to try not to try to have it not get up to a point of escalation in where you're using violence to work out your differences.
Okay, and to summarize?
So okay, you're doing things to work out your differences to achieve an objective through means that are more diplomatic, instead of the military. You're trying to do that ahead of time, work in having discussions and working out your difference in a diplomatic way to achieve an objective, instead of having things escalate up to the point of military in achieving your objective. And when things don't work out, that means you weren't really approaching things properly in the
Yeah, but sometimes people can approach things properly and it just doesn't work out, right?
yeah. And you have no choice but I mean, like, if it doesn't work out, I mean that you're doing something, you're doing something wrong ahead of time that you should look back on to have prevented what how things became how things turned out the way they are in becoming violent.
But sometimes you couldn't have done anything to prevent it, right? It's not that not all the time can you, because like if someone just kind of out of nowhere just starts bulldozing another country and you had no indication that they were capable, like that they would do that, um
Yeah, I
you know,
understand. So
I know, like I agree with the prescription of trying to um you know, okay, great. I'm just booking some hotels and stuff while I'm talking to you. But yeah, like
I get you talking about point of escalations and where, well, that's the situation that you're in, and sometimes there's just nothing you can do about that. That you find yourself at that point, and either you blow this up or you blow that up,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like nuclear, right? That you say, well, hey, this is the position we're in. Either we do the first strike or the other one do the first.
Mm-hmm.
So there are different points of escalation along the way. And in a way, those different points could be seen as a war, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to define like what point you are and not at war to achieve your objective, because everything is an achievement of objective. And when things don't really work out, you know, in a calm, orderly way, it can get volatile. You get chaos.
Noir wants to join the call. They want to ask you a couple questions about your position. Just telling them, jump in the waiting room, Noir. You'll see it right below where Nivik and I are sitting. I'm actually going to, just so we can, actually, no, I need to use Discord right now. So
I was thinking, like, at what point is something a weapon and not a weapon?
So try to simplify your claim as much as you can, Nivik. Like, just try to be as clear as you can. Like, are you saying like it's a good idea to oh, looks like we have them here. Hey Noir, welcome.
Hi.
So you had some clarifying questions for Nivik, or you had a point to make?
No, I had a question to you, not about this topic, so I'm able to wait if when Nevik is finished.
No, it's okay. We can do this first, and then we can go back to the topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you a question about a statement I read on the internet, and wanted to know if you agree with the statement. Do you agree with the statement? When arguing, one of the most frustrating things to be confronted by a calm and cold demeanor. So if you can't be the person hanging on the calmness, there's a great chance that you will win the argument.
You mean if you stay calm while you're, having a discussion with someone where you're disagreeing, you think that's a good way to go about that? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yes, because if you're staying calm, the other person is getting out of calmness himself because he thinks you know how to win the argument.
Yeah, I agree with you. And one thing I try to promote on this Discord server that you're on here is for everyone to have, absolute patience for what I call your perceived stupidity. Things that you think are stupid. We got to try in intellectual discourse to have absolute patience for this stuff, instead of like this idea of like poning someone and showing how stupid they are and then discarding them and throwing them into the stupid pile and then moving on. Like, I think that's a very bad way of engaging in intellectual discourse. There's too much lost when we are throwing individuals into the stupid pile in that way. There's so much to gain. There's so much to gain by maintaining a good faith, helpful rapport.
Yeah, because
faith conversation, though.
What's that, Nivik?
Depends if they want to have a good faith conversation, and they're not just about saying things strategically to get a win. It's not really about being skeptical and trying to figure out any topic, and you don't care about right or wrong. You just want to.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Like, it's some people are very difficult, Nivik, but I'm saying that if they don't want to engage in good faith or be helpful, don't fall into, like, so many people, like, do you know how many people, like, I had my conversation with that Destiny guy who's got a YouTube channel where he seems to just like yell and ad hom attack people on that channel. Now that I've seen more of what he does, you know, he doesn't just do that, but he gets these guys on and then they scream at each other and call each other names and try to like land points on each other. Like, and someone was trying to tell me like, oh, well, that's his style. Like, you gotta, if you're in a conversation with him, you gotta like go to where he is, because that's his way of communicating. No, I'm not going to sacrifice what I think to be good faith and helpful discourse and bend it to someone who I think is engaging in bad faith. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to fall into bad faith discourse. I think that's like, we need more people standing up for that.
See, I like to talk the process of reasoning in where you take one view and then you take the other view and you compare them and try to find what's the answer, you know, in being skeptical. And some folks, when they do come in, their interest is like what you say, scoring points and just tearing a person down and insulting, and they don't really want to have a discussion with you on whether something is true or not, in figuring out the answer to any question. It's like, I guess it's like I think it's an egotistical thing.
Yeah, and then how do you deal with someone who's being egotistical, Nivik?
I say, hey, this isn't a debate. I'm trying to have a good faith conversation with you. I'm being intellectually honest. I'm not trying to manipulate you into any type of humiliating position to make you feel bad, knock you down in order, and tear you apart in order for me to feel better and get off on that egotistically, you know. Don't so don't come in not wanting to hear what the others say. You don't have to be here. You can just look in the mirror and say and just tell yourself what you want to hear. If you're not open to hearing what others have to say, or you don't really care about this topic that we're talking about. It's something to do. It has to do with something else, with your ego in trying to just humiliate, or a confirmation bias in where you just want, like, you to want people to tell you what you want to hear, because a lot of times, sometimes people just come in the Discord and they have a belief and they're dogmatic in it, and they don't really have any type of open-minded view in changing it when talking to other in engaging with other people. They just want them to agree with them no matter what.
Yeah. So, oh, what do you think about that? Sorry, you're. I forget your name. It's just I can't read the language.
Japanese signs. Sorry.
No worries. You're Japanese?
No, I'm not Japanese.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Actually, yeah. We'll get back to what Nivik's getting at here, but I want to ask you, what do you think? What's your name, by the way? What do you go by?
You can call me Thomas if you want.
Thomas?
Yeah.
Okay. Thomas, nice to meet you. What is your take? What do you think's going to happen with Russia and the Ukraine here? Do you think it's going to boil over into another world war, or where's your thinking at?
I think that Russia will invade Ukraine successfully, and that there will be not much more activity in sense of war the next few years, because I guess Russia has almost got the Soviet Union back then, and Putin will be will wait a bit because for everything to calm down. Because if he makes another move, he doesn't want to break off himself.
Mm. Interesting.
So um, so I think if he got the Ukraine, he will wait and not do another move because it's him against the West and other us against the West, and I don't think he wants that himself. I think he wants to get the glory of taking the Soviet Union back and getting into history.
Do you think he's overstepping, or do you think he's entitled to be doing this?
I think he's overstepping entirely because just for him to get his glory and his place, his spot in the history books and that stuff, that
Yeah.
is not okay to just sacrifice lives for that.
Yeah,
I get what you're asking. You're saying, is he entitled to take back what was once part of? And some folks was like, well, that's not really, he has a right to do that. And some folks was like, well, no, if that was the case, other countries owned other countries in the
well,
past,
yeah,
and
yeah, exactly.
they don't have a right to do that.
Well,
Eh,
but is this not like are we not reminded of Hitler and Poland here? What, like, people were making the same bloody arguments about why they why they're like like Hitler has a point, his hand was kind of forced to go into Poland, right? And
You're right. You're
and
right, Travis.
and
You're right.
I like I'm baffled by some of these people who are kind of like speaking very apologetic about this. Like, it does remind me of reading some of those, like the critiques of Hitler's Germany, before all of the chaos broke out, and it broke out into World War II. And like this kind of like passive support, like, oh yeah, it's like there's two. It's like yeah, we all know that there's two sides to this argument, like that Putin and the regime feels justified for whatever reason. But
And World War III is being
but
fought, by the way, Travis. It's not in the way people think it is. People aligning with each other in NATO countries,
yeah,
and
I don't think the world is at war, Nivik.
I'm telling you how it is.
Yeah, I understand you feel that it's at war. I disagree with you. I think
People think
I think
it's not like the past.
sorry.
People, it's not that the war would be fought differently. It wouldn't be fought like it was in the past. That's the mindset people are taking. They're taking from what they saw, what they think it would be,
Yeah.
in how it was before to now.
Yeah. Well, and some people will say, like,
Fair-
okay, it was the
Same
invasion of France, and then when Britain got involved, like, that was the big thing that really kicked things in gear. Sure, but what would World War II look like? How many lives would have been saved if, when Poland is getting invaded, if other allies of the French, allies of other people, actually, for reasons of defense and being cautious, buffed up the military presence around these potentially vulnerable countries. I think, my message here is that we've seen something very much similar to this before.
and that's what I'm agreeing with you. We're fighting that right now in trying to prevent that. We're not going to do the same mistakes in the past in being diplomatic alone. Why the NATO is banding together and attacking Russia, like not going in attacking, but like sanctioning and arming Ukraine, and putting defenses along the NATO line in as a precaution. And they say, if you put one toe over this border, it is 100% on. Like, our full might is going to go against you. and we're going to let you know, and we're going to let you know that
No, there's
from
no talk of full might. Like, you got to be careful with full
he
might.
he can't invade. Well, they're saying that if he invades a NATO, attack on one is an attack on all.
Yeah, but full might,
It'll
Nivik,
trigger.
full might isn't necessarily on the table. Like, nuclear war is not
Whoa.
necessarily on the table. So as much posturing and language, there's a big difference when it comes to weapons of mass destruction like this, or whether it's like what am I trying to think of? Like, I'm trying to think of like other means of mass killing, like gassing and things like that. There's okay, if someone's posturing and saying like, no, we will defend ourselves with nuclear arms, I don't think, even if World War III broke out, I'm not sure that nuclear arms would be used.
May I say something real quick? Because I got interrupted.
That's my argument. It's already here.
Let Thomas get back in here.
Because I wanted to finish I wanted to answer the question you had for me, and I wanted to say, just because Ukraine was a part of Russia once, or better say of the Soviet Union, I don't think they have the right to take it back, because it's an independent nation now, and you can't say, just for other countries as well, you can just say if it was part of that it is that they have the right to take it back, because just because it's a bigger country in the Soviet Union, it doesn't mean that it is that it was the main part of the Soviet Union. So I don't think they have the right to take the Ukraine back.
And that wasn't their argument. Like their argument to the world is that they had to go in because they were preventing, this potential genocide from taking place against these Russian separatists. There's not a lick of evidence, not one tiny bit of evidence that there's any threat of genocide happening to Russian separatists in the Ukraine.
But that's the problem, because Putin makes the people in his country believe that, because he has the control over the medias, and
I understand that. But we don't even have to have the conversation about like whether Russia feels entitled because of historical whatever. That's not the reason they gave to the world for doing what they're doing right now.
That was a lie.
It's just not.
Made it.
Well,
had it.
Here's the funny thing about that. Like, has Putin been indoctrinated to believe this by his advisors, by his intelligence staff? Is Putin the one who is kind of driving this conspiracy theory? Everyone wants to point at Putin and say, "Oh, he's a smart guy. He knows exactly what he's doing." But has Putin been indoctrinated by, propaganda from his own people? This is stuff we need to sort out, and I think an investigation should take place in a perfect world.
Okay, what happened in the past is that Putin tried to put his guy in, and he wasn't managed to do that. He wasn't able to do that, and Zelensky went in, and he ended up invaded Crimea afterwards, and nobody really responded. And later on, here we are, because that pretty much encouraged him. And then here we are again. You see him putting troops along the border, and people are saying like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "No, I'm just exercising. Like, this is my border. Like, what are you talking about? You can't tell you can't tell me what I shouldn't do in my country." And they're like, "Well, you're massing up an army good able that's big enough to launch an entire invasion. So you're going to invade." And he's like, "Well, I'm not going to invade." He says, "Well, your talk doesn't connect with the logic the logic of your actions. Your actions say that you're mounting up enough troops to launch a full scale invasion. Like, why would there be like reinforcements of gas trucks and blood that you're bringing for an exercise? Obviously, so you're probably thinking about invading, and then he ended up going into Dunbar area, I believe, and that's when he was using the excuse of, there are people in there, we have to take care of them, and we have to look for their interests that are Russian. And that point, that was really the invasion. He was just going to
Yeah,
take
but
it.
all I'm saying is people are getting confused. Like they're sometimes like being like, "Well, this is the reason why Russia's there." It's like you can speculate on that, but Putin's been very clear about exactly what their justification is for war here. The reason
And
for
recognize Ukraine.
what?
Putin. They said he wrote something where he says that he doesn't recognize Ukraine.
That's not what
And
Nivik. That is not the reason for the declaration of war. Even though you might believe that's in his head, in Putin's head, or in the heads of the people who are, working with Putin on this. But that's not the reason for war.
no, I'm not giving a reason for what I think isn't. I'm just pointing things out in what he said. Um,
Yeah, he
I'm
has
not
said
sure why
that, but
why he invaded.
don't obfuscate or confuse the situation. Like we want to make sure you don't trick people into thinking that that's the reason Putin gave for this war and invasion. Because people get tricked easy if you talk around like all these. Oh, Air Canada's calling me back. If you guys want to chat a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why he invaded. It just seems like but by the way, that he says the threat of NATO along the borders, but if you take over Crimea, you'd still have the threat of NATO along your borders.
Well, the problem is that he's always one step before, like one little step before the outbreak of war. So he pushes everything to one step before the war breaks out. So the problem is that the war doesn't break out because he's just one step before. You know what I mean? He just times it real good that he knows what he has to do. That the war doesn't break out, but he can do what he wants.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a surprise. Like, look at these fools. They actually bought what I said, and now I took an entire country.
Yeah, that's the problem with politics, um, because talking about he's not just wasting his time talking about what he says or what he doesn't say. He is actively participating in war against Ukraine, and we're doing nothing. We're just analyzing what he says, and that's the problem I think we got. Hello, Nivek.
Yeah.
Got anything to add to that?
Um.
Did I repeat myself, or did I speak unclearly?
Yeah, you're breaking up a bit.
Oh, sorry, I don't know. Yeah, but to what point did you understand what I said?
No, I didn't completely hear what you said.
So I said that, like, wait, I have to remember what I said. I said like, mm, that the problem in our politics is that the Putin is actively participating in war, and we're just watching and analyzing what he says, his excuses and stuff, and we don't get that he is really trying to take over Ukraine, and
You think that
I
we
mean,
did that because
we don't
we
take
were
the
we
threat
were we were we
seriously.
were we were addressing him in saying that, yeah, you say one thing, but your actions speak something else. You are mounting up enough people along your border to invade Ukraine, and the only way for us to take you seriously is if your actions match your words. That's how come they were arming Ukraine during the time he was massing up uh, his military along the Ukrainian border.
I mean,
And
I have to
where
correct
when he
myself.
went
I have to
in,
correct myself,
because
bro.
when he
I'm
went in,
sorry.
there was a response. When he went in, there was response of tanks and planes and
Yeah, I know.
copters being hit.
I need
So
to correct myself. I didn't want to say that we didn't do anything, but I wanted to say that we waste too much time analyzing his excuses, which don't have any evidence at all, and that's to be clear.
you're saying
And
that we could have prevented him from coming in? No, I don't think
I'm
so.
not saying that. No,
This is the Russian army.
and we
They're
could
gonna
have,
come.
but I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say that that we are I am trying to say that
Their war isn't taking over Ukraine. That's a given automatically. It's about holding it and the resistance that would be in Ukraine and the sanctions on top of that. If Russia made the right choice, and I'm not sure if they did or not, because they're going to pay a price economically. Their economy is tanking, and people mass together, and in an allied way, and in hitting him with sanctions. And he was being hit with sanctions before he came in. The sanctions was to deter him, but he has
I didn't say that
when
we
the
are
Ukraine, he has to get Ukraine.
bro. I think you misunderstand me. I didn't say that we didn't do anything or something like that. I said like that it's what's it called? What do you say? Wait, it's wait. I have to look the word up. I forgot it. Sorry, I'm not native English. Um. Okay, that's definitely not futile. Is it? Okay, it's futile to try to analyze what he says, or try to even try to understand his excuses, because I wanted to say like he doesn't have any evidence at all with the genocide and the neo-Nazis in the Ukraine, that isn't true at all, and he doesn't have any evidence, and we should stop trying to analyze what he says there, and start to like stop generally at least even thinking about that this is really a thing, because it isn't, and it doesn't. He just says what he wants to say, and because he has a big nation behind him, he can say it, because the people in his nation, most of them are gonna believe it, because of because he has the social media and the media in general in his hands, so he can control everything that is going in and going out to Russia. Every single bit of information.
Yeah, well, he's not really winning that argument anyway, right? About the Nazis
Yeah,
and
but the problem is that he does have his citizens and people in his country, who he can fake it to, because he has this great impact on the. I don't think I can say impact, but he just controls the information in his country, and instantly locks up people who want to just who want to have a different opinion about things, and that's why there's still no revolution, rebellion. Can I say rebellion? I don't know. Can I say rebellion? No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I can. Yeah, okay. In Russia, cause we don't we should
Well,
start
maybe
we should
maybe what
start.
he does, maybe like kind of like the things that he do in invading another country, it they might agree, they might agree with that, because I mean, like, it could be like a pride thing. It's not necessarily
Yeah,
like about how people are doing.
but it's just because, but they think it's a pride thing or something like that, just because he gives them the things that they should think, because they don't know anything else, because they learned it like that at school, or they watched TV and saw that someone said that, because they don't have more information about it. So I think how we should handle this problem with Russia is to start giving out information to the probably through the not knowing citizens or civilians, people in Russia. Like,
after
tell
after
them
he
what is really happening, show them.
but they after he invaded Crimea, he won his election, right? They didn't seem
It
to
is,
like
but that
they
wasn't
didn't
that wasn't um,
they didn't
that
really
wasn't.
push against
Hmm?
they didn't really push back in being against that.
But you can't take a Russian election as a point. I mean, watch it. You can see it on YouTube and on every other page. Russian elections aren't like ours in Europe or something like that. If there's an election in Russia, the people are, I'm not saying forced, but they get more chances to. I mean, what should I say? How should I say that? They are basically forced into voting for Putin, because the military is behind him, and you can't take Russian elections for
Because
for real.
I'm just pointing out, like, if they're thinking like, they have an issue in the things that he do, and they'll push back and having a revolution, like you said. It doesn't seem like that when he took a part of a country and ran and got elected. I get it that he rigs his elections, but regardless of whether you rig your election, people, they think what you're doing is wrong. They'll rise up against it, but maybe they're somewhat in agreement with it. Why that hasn't happened?
There's
After
voter fraud, so in Russia, so and the people don't know. That's the problem, because the elections are all faked, and like it's just like not like voting for Putin is. I mean, everyone has to vote for Putin, cause, and if you don't, like, they pick out the notes that vote for Putin. Voting fraud, voter fraud. It's common. It's commonly known that the public it's everyone known that Russia is making voter fraud. There is voter fraud in Russia, so you can't take Russian elections as a point, because probably 99, let's say, no, let's say, because of the information that is manipulated, we could say 67% of Russian people wouldn't vote for Putin, or 70% wouldn't vote for Putin, and that's
Okay,
the
so
thing.
if they were more informed, they would they'd rise up against him.
Those
That's
who
your.
are informed, that was the same problem with the Nazis in Second World War. Cause if they were informed,
What
they
do you
didn't have the
think of?
courage to rise up against it.
What do you
Cause
think of?
what? I didn't understand you. Sorry. Please repeat yourself.
No, I'm saying, what are they not aware of?
They're not
If,
aware of the
if they were aware, if they were more aware, that then they would rise up and
huh?
overthrow him.
they
What
they
you
present
aware
they
of?
present the facts differently than they would in our news, and they don't have the social media that we have in Russia. Just recently, just recently, cut the connection to the to YouTube and stuff from for radios that are not controlled by Russia. You know what I mean? They don't get the information about about what Russia does to invade the Ukraine, how they if they have any evidence for that, and they think that it has to be like that if they get to see it everywhere because they don't have anything that goes against it, you know.
Yeah, I know. I understand what you're saying. He takes out everything that would be a threat. The media,
And it was the same
the
problem in Second
government.
World War because the people who know about him and about the country
Mm.
are not don't have the courage to stand up because they think that they are a very few and think that if they do they will be alone and will get locked up or killed. So there's no rebellion in Russia, and that's why
Sometimes, like
because
some, if you're just living okay, even though you don't agree with anything, you just go along with it. You
I don't
but
think you're living okay if you get to see if you can't even um state your own opinion on the streets and get locked up if you do. I don't think you're living okay with that if you know what happens in Russia.
no, yeah, it sucks, but it's kind
Yeah,
of
it
like
does, and
going to.
that's what
It's like if you make a if you make a society in a way in where people, even though it's not being ran how you want it to run. I think that's like probably that. Like, I guess that's Putin's aim. It's not being. It's not. You're not running the society. The society's not being ran how you'd like it to be ran, but you're You're living fine.
can't be
You're
living fine if
doing
the
okay.
society isn't run how you want it to be run. You can't if you I mean if even if you have uh the money necessary to be happy in Russia, for example, it doesn't happiness doesn't have its full potential because there are um, there are lines that can't be crossed. You know what I mean? We have the wait, I have to Google the word. I don't know what's it in English. Um, we have the freedom of speech to say everything what you want, um, but in Russia it isn't like that, and I think if you are not free to say what you want, you can't live out your happiness how you would used to.
Yeah, maybe if the outs people maybe if the Russia goes under enough pressure and people start feeling the feeling the pressure, there's an uprising.
Mm, it is. I was just looking to procrastinate and not get many things done today, so I figured this would be the place. Great stuff, guys. Maybe
So we talked about the about Putin not letting information coming into Russia or not letting the people, civilians, know what is going on outside the world, and the the and like that he is he like wha- bl- what I wanted to say, he like that he prevents a rebellion to happen because the people who know what he does are not courage enough to stand up against him because because they think they're the only ones, or if they know that there are other people, they know that they're gonna get like locked up, and they are gonna maybe gonna get killed if they state their own opinion.
But your argument is that they're in the dark. And
Me? Oh, oh, thank you. Great. Yeah, I just wanted to engage in the discussion about the war. It was very interesting what I've heard. Yeah, and they I think Thomas talked about the topic of the Russians don't knowing what's going on in their country or in the Ukraine, and I just wanted to add the factor of the total propaganda here, and the government decides really everything what the people are allowed to know and what's going on there, and um, I I really don't think that most Russians know, or at this point after so many years of having the Ukraine in the news, are even interested in those kinds of news, and maybe they don't even know that there is a real war out there because Putin. Yeah, it yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait, yeah, I know. But whom are they reporting to? They are reporting to the Canadians. They're not reporting to the Russians. Of course, there are possibilities, and
Travis, Travis,
many know.
Wait, have
what
the
the other
journalists?
guy was saying is that was that if they knew if the people knew the wrong that was being done, then they would push back against it. And I'm like, that's strange because he invaded Crimea and ran for election right after
Sorry, I
that
was
and
muted.
won.
Yeah. Sorry,
Uh,
Neil.
you can't bring up the elections because the elections are absolutely frauded. Elections are at the point in Russia because they are faking the elections. Even though you're not voting for Putin, they are gonna put extra votes for Putin in
So
there, and
there's some
Let's get
agreement
let's
what
get
Putin's doing.
I want to get Bear on Stilton. Bear, what do you feel about this? Like, how successful can Russian propaganda and like blocking of communication really be when they have so many people demonstrating in their country, and word of mouth even is spreading about this? Are you there, Bear? I can't hear you. Same question to you, Bruno.
I haven't got much in this. I'm just going to listen on this one.
Okay. Make sure you guys are engaging in the text chat on YouTube as well. Have that stream open. But yeah, I just think I think Russian people know what's know what's going on.
Maybe they know personally, but they definitely cannot show any signs that they know, because I've just heard Russia has banned the word war and invasion from being used in the public right now. So you cannot even.
But people are still using it. Like they're screaming it in the streets, right?
Yeah.
They're getting locked up for it. And wait, I wanted to add something to that. You said something about Canadian journalists, but didn't all the journalists have to leave? Had to leave because Russia didn't want the information to leak out. Because I heard in the news that
maybe that.
Back.
Okay. Oh yeah. Here's an interesting report from 2 days ago. CBC and BBC suspend reporting from inside Russia in face of, quote, fake news laws blocking of Western websites. Let's read this. So, yeah, it sounds like you're right. The CBC has joined in the BBC in saying it will temporarily suspend all its reporting from the ground in Russia after Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a bill introducing a prison sentence up to 15 years for spreading information that goes against the Russian government's position on the war. So in an online statement, CBC Radio Canada said it is very concerned about new legislation passed in Russia, which appears to criminalize independent reporting on the current situation in Ukraine and Russia. So yeah, it looks like they are making efforts to smash down these internal these people reporting internally. But it's not just like the mainstream news networks that are reporting. Like we have journalists, like independent journalists on various social media platforms and podcasters and things like that are, that are still there in Russia.
But isn't social media, almost all of social media banned in Russia now? Because Russia did ban YouTube and stuff.
They did ban it. They did ban it, but there's ways to access it still, right? If it's banned.
Yeah.
But it's very dangerous, and if they get your IP through it and if that you're like on these platforms, you will not get out without a sentence or punishment. Yeah.
You don't think some people agree with Putin?
Of course, I think.
Sure.
I think at least
you guys are acting like, oh man, if they found out this immoral act, that they would rise up. It's like some people see patriotic pride.
That was not our point, because our point was that even if people know, they think they are too little of an amount to stand up against Putin, and our point wasn't that they are gonna rebel against him if they know that and they're gonna rebel against him if everyone in Russia knows that the others are thinking that way. Because if you're alone, you're never gonna think that you can rebel against him. You're gonna get into jail and can't do any difference.
I just want to speak for a second to Eugene Parallax. It looks like, Eugene, are you Russian? I would love to get you into the chat here. If you are, I'm just gonna see. How is it? You said YouTube is how I'm watching you right now. How is it supposed to be banned? Please join
Some people looking at the wrong context. If you see patriotic pride, there can be patriotic pride in what is being done. And where how you communicate with folks is like there's no pride in this. Like morally, it's shown as it's wrong. And so some people it's easy. They'll go for patriotic pride over the conditions of their life, and it's kind of like, well, he's about what's best for Russia and the Russian Empire and expanding the Russian Empire and having patriotic pride. You communicate. You can communicate by putting sanctions on folks and pressuring them and making them think like that the consequent the sacrifice of my life being more affected in these harsh sanctions isn't worth the pride. And the pride isn't there because around the world we're being humiliated on top of that. So you're attacking it's a two frontal attack of this is humiliating in against your patriotic pride, and plus we're going to hit you with sanctions on top of that. So you're not gonna get neither world. There's not gonna be a sacrifice of living a decent life in Russia, and you giving your tacit agreement for this, and plus you're gonna be humiliated because nobody agrees. Nobody's on Putin's side with this Nazi take out Nazi garbage that he's saying, and the reason why he's invading Ukraine, a sovereign country.
Are you
Yeah,
talking about no one?
May I just add something? And my point is that there's more than one truth. There's the personal truth, and I really believe that many Russians know about the war and know what's going on, and that they disagree personally with what Putin does. Maybe, yeah, of course, many some also agree with him, and there's also the public truth, and this is what really matters in the state, because it doesn't matter if all of the people believe one thing and say the other thing, because that what is spoken and that what is acted like is that what the state is eventually going to do. And so this is the public and the public decision of the people is the only thing that matters in this context. So, and it can be manipulated by propaganda and stuff. And this is what's my point.
You guys, I'm going to be bringing in Divine Evil here, who is a member of this Discord server who is Russian. I'd like to get his take, and then we can ask some questions.
Is he a supporter or not?
We're going to figure that out.
Okay, great.
Yeah, no, this will be awesome. So, yeah, it looks like Eugene Parallax is going to join us. I have gone over to the Russian Pangburn server and invited anyone who's there to, who's, available to come over and join us as well.
But it should be two sides of agreeing and disagreeing, though, of the Russian.
No, Nivik. It's just going to be who we are able to get on here. Right.
That's about the information we are gonna get from him.
Yeah, I think this will be very interesting. We are going to be moving into a larger group discussion where there'll be many more people involved. At 5:30 Pacific time, which is about just under 4 hours away. So
I gotta go very soon. So
yeah, that's fine. I'm glad you've made it here to give your take. And by the way, Divine, you just have to go into the waiting room, and I will be able to drag you in to the conversation. The waiting room is just under the 1v1 discussion. I'm just booking some hotel rooms as I'm doing this, so room details. Is that where I go? What? Yeah, let me know if you guys see him on Discord when he pops in. Ah, there he is. Hey, Divine, what's up, brother? It's been a while.
Yep. Hello.
Hey. How are things, man?
It's weird.
It's pretty weird.
I guess.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So I just want to start off by you just feel free to rant on how you're feeling right now about this declaration of war. I mean, your country has declared war on another country. How are you feeling?
Well, it's difficult to settle with that fact, but at first I was very not scared, not angry, just like bamboozled by the very fact that my country suddenly gone to war when I didn't expect it and nobody really expected it to happen. But as much like as the time goes on, I'm realizing that there is no alternative. It had to happen.
Okay, interesting. We'll get into that. So we'll get into the no alternative, and then the other thing I wanted to ask you. I have a couple questions. Do you feel like there is censorship happening within your country right now?
Yeah, but it is mostly because there is a lot of agencies that use this occasion for opposition.
Okay.
Just to oppose Putin by any means, by like translating any fake news, any fake facts, by constantly inviting speakers which are also contrarian. So it's like it doesn't really serve a purpose or of making people more conformist to the reality.
Right. Okay. And my next question: do you have any friends or family, people you know personally, that are currently serving in this war?
No,
Okay.
I do not have serving. Like I have a friend right like in Ukraine right now, and I have my best friend who have his family members there.
Right. Okay. Now those people that you know in the Ukraine, are those people resisting the Russian invasion, or are they kind of on board with what Russia's trying to do?
No, they are on board.
They're on board. Okay.
Yep.
Now, I have a position that I don't believe that there has been my understanding right now is that Putin made this claim, and the reasonable justification Putin gave for this invasion was that there was this threat of genocide being carried out within within the Ukraine against these Russian separatists who would like to see Russia gain power over the Ukraine. Is that the way you read Putin's justification as well? And if not, what justification do you think really is at play here for this war?
Well, it's a very long and complicated story, but the main fact is that there was a coup in Ukraine when the president, what was his family name? Never mind. Like the president was forcefully evicted from his position, and the power was taken over by basically a third power. And during this time, there were two states, Donetsk and Lugansk, which are the furthest eastern side of the Ukraine, which have not recognized this coup as a legitimate transfer of power. So they decided that they will be independent. And since then, it was 8 years, Ukraine, its army, together with some other people, which we'll mention, I guess, probably, were basically indiscriminately bombing Donetsk and Lugansk. There were at this time there is 14,000 civilian casualties.
Okay. And was but do you agree with me, like the main reason that Putin gave for this invasion was about like the threat of this genocide? Would you agree with that, or do you think that's wrong?
Well, the main reason is that there were two bases built and one naval base built near the eastern side of the Ukraine,
Right.
which are not Ukraine bases. They're NATO bases. They house NATO weaponry, and they were awaiting tactical missile weaponry. And the naval base housed a NATO ship. So basically, it's a complete breach of the reached agreements with NATO to not broaden its reach into the Russian territory.
And do you think that is a reasonable justification to invade Ukraine? Isn't that more of something where Putin should be going after NATO?
Well, that's the way he goes. Like the Ukraine is a brother nation. It's the Russian people. Like there is very subtle distinction between a Ukrainian and a Russian. Like the same way there is a very subtle distinction between a Belarusian and a Russian.
Okay.
Like there is family ties between these people. They're basically the same people, but the country have been given independence. Ukraine have been given independence during the dissolution of the USSR. So we do not have, like Russia does not have any problem with the people, with the Ukrainian people. This was the Putin's declaration. If you do not interfere with our operation, we will not touch you, we will not harm you, we will not destroy your property, we will not take anything from you.
Right.
So this is not against Ukraine. This is against the NATO agency in Ukraine, so-called neo-nationalist forces.
So are you kind of making the claim that that Putin is sending, because what do you think, and this will kind of carve in more of an understanding with your thinking. What is the end game for Putin in Ukraine, do you think? What does Putin want to see happen?
Well, he wants Ukraine to be truly neutral state, the state which stands between NATO and Russia, to be completely unarmed, to be unrelated either to NATO or Russia. Maybe, like, it's Putin. Maybe he wants a friendly agency there. Maybe he will try to. Yeah, it's very likely that he will try to put someone more friendly to Russia. But like, Russia have more problems than to trade territories with NATO. We have bigger problems right now. It's the problem of NATO, which have not listened to Putin's demands for decades.
Yep. So okay, so now we get to Putin has a problem with NATO. Putin doesn't want to see Ukraine become join NATO, right?
Yep. Yep.
Now, is an invasion justified to prevent that when
Yes.
you have a country? Would you let me put it this way. Would you agree that most of Ukraine wants to be its own nation?
Well, probably yes, sure.
Now, shouldn't they be allowed to be that?
Well, they were allowed to be that until they stopped to be that. The neo-nationalist forces have performed a coup. They took out the Russian Russian-friendly president, and they took over. And for 8 years, they were bombing civilians who they consider as traitors.
Right.
because they seceded, they declared their own independence. And like, we are talking about a non-stop bombing of civilians on the Russian border by Ukraine.
When did this happen?
This happened in 14. Like, since then, there was
December.
a conflict.
Are you saying December 14th?
No. Like the year 14.
2014.
Yes.
Fine. I want to ask you a question, but don't people don't mostly lean towards Russia? They don't.
Nivik, just hang on.
Well, like the point is that they're mostly apolitical. They mostly do not care who like rules them, because they just want stability. They just want peace. They do not really care. They allowed to the president. They allowed like 3 or 4 different translations of power, from Russian friendly to NATO friendly. Like,
that was my argument with Russia when we were talking about Russia, and the guy saying, "Well, if the Russians knew what was going on, if Russians knew what was going on, they'll uprise." I say, "Well, if Russians get stability and peace, then they're fine. They don't really, they wouldn't really rise up against the war if they're being given stability and peace."
Like, again, it's split. Like, I do not know as many enough people to tell you if there is a majority in either direction. It's a matter of what you think about Russia and NATO. It's different for every individual.
You said that they don't want to. They wanted to be neutral, but they didn't get their guy in, and when they didn't get their guy in, they invaded Crimea afterwards, right? Russia.
Well, Russia invaded, in quote marks, Crimea in order to protect people from neo-nationalists, because the Crimea is a region that were given to Ukraine.
My point is, he wants it neutral, but he didn't get his way in staying out of Ukraine's affairs, and so he. What do you think? You think he would have invaded? You think he would have invaded if his guy would have gotten in? Is what I'm asking.
We had his guy. That's the point. We had his guy in the country, and then NATO guys came in and forced him out with weapons, with basically goons, armed goons, which then stand. Like, imagine the situation: you're riding in a car, and there is 2 guys with assault rifles on the road. If you stop, they take everything they can from you: money, phones, anything you can give them. And if you don't stop, they fire at you in your back while you're riding away from them.
You're saying they stole the election, but most Ukrainians don't lean favorably towards Russia.
They didn't steal the election. There was some like disturbances in the populace because of some like, there was corruption with our guy, with Russian allegiance president. So there was some disturbance in the populace, and during those there were protests, and during those protests they have appeared the third party. The third party have used snipers in order to basically throw the gasoline onto the flames, and then they participated in it actively. Like, they were portraying themselves as the part of the people.
But you understand what I'm saying, though? You're saying that this guy who leans towards Russia's sphere of influence, they unjustly kicked him out. But I don't see how they can unjustly kick him out when most of the electorate don't lean towards Russia's sphere of influence.
Well, like Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in the
Yeah,
world
I want to
right
get to,
now.
I want to get to that. I want to get to the corruption claims here. What do you, let's start with Zelensky. What do you think of Zelensky, Divine Evil?
Zelensky is an actor. It's his profession. Zelensky, like, just for your so that you understand that person, Zelensky have been playing as an actor the main guy in the series called like Servant of the People. You can Google that. It's a Ukrainian series where the Zelensky plays the Ukraine president, like the teacher who suddenly becomes the president. And in that series, it's a comedy show basically, because it displays all the corruption of the Ukrainian power structure with humor.
Okay.
After that, Zelensky creates the party, the political party in Ukraine with the same name, Servant of the People, and he wins.
Mm-hmm.
So an actor with no political experience wins the election, then
it sounds a lot like Donald Trump, to be honest.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Divine. Let's not interrupt Divine Evil, please. I'll call on you guys if when it's your turn to ask a question.
Then Russian investigations finds in Switzerland there is a bank account for Zelensky which have $8 billion.
Okay.
So this guy is being paid by NATO to close his eyes on all that is happening. And what is happening is active and aggressive propaganda in the country against Russia.
Okay, quick thing. You just made the claim Zelensky is being paid by NATO. Do you mean him personally?
Yes, it's his personal account.
Okay.
He's the president of the Ukraine right now.
Okay, yeah. So you're saying he's received personal funds from NATO, guys. If you guys could all of you who are in the room right now, if you could double check, see what you can find about this. I'd like to verify I'd like to see if we can verify this. And you're saying it's how much? 8 billion?
8 billion, yeah, if I remember correctly.
Right.
It was a while.
Okay. And you're saying NATO's been paying Zelensky $8 billion so that NATO can basically do whatever they want in the Ukraine?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Or there is some intermediates, like maybe there is some rich guys in the Ukraine itself.
Okay.
Which are sponsoring them and represent NATO interests.
Yeah,
I'm calling NATO right now.
Okay, cool. Well, Bear calls NATO. Anyone else? What do you guys think?
Hey, Zelensky corrupt?
What about him?
Is he corrupt?
Of course he's corrupt.
There you have it.
Well, there you have it. Bear has verified the corruption, but honestly,
unfalsifiable.
I have a question.
So, hang on, Nivik. I know everyone's got questions in the room. I want to know, instead of asking a question, Nivik, see if you can find out about whether this $8 billion actually does exist in Zelensky's account and that it came from. So how do you come to know this, Divine?
Russian press.
Okay, can you send me a link? I would love to look at it.
Okay,
So and if I can't find it on Google, do you think it's more likely that NATO's kind of blocking that information, or do you think
just
it's
ignoring it,
or they're just
like it's not
it?
in their interest to highlight it? Like there is a lot of stuff that NATO doesn't show you, really.
Zelensky.
You have no idea.
Okay, so Zelensky net worth, he's worth 596 million according to a bunch of different estimated net worth. Okay, that one says 1.5 billion. 705 million, 1.5. So I would say that at least what you're saying is definitely not verified publicly, but you're saying you have information, different information. I'd love to see it.
Well, I may be not exactly accurate. I just will have to look for it.
Okay.
But I remember.
I'm willing. I'm willing to entertain it, but of course we would have to look at. We would have to look at the information, see if it, because is it possible, Divine, that might be Russian propaganda?
Possibly, yeah.
Right. Well, I'm glad you're open to that possibility. Okay, now why don't we go around? Who's got a question for Divine?
I do.
Okay, Nivik, you go first.
If
Make it clear, Nivik. Make it very clear and short, clear as crystal.
Oh yeah. I was wrong. Yeah, it was different figure.
he's saying that NATO is involved in Ukraine, why Russia is invading NATO. But I mean, couldn't the threat of Russia invading NATO be validation for NATO to involve itself in Ukraine in arming it?
Well, again, like the idea of the operation is to create a neutral state between NATO and Russia. Like the idea is not to wage a World War III. It's a local conflict. It's a conflict to stop Ukraine from bombing Donetsk and Lugansk because they just do not like Russians. The entire point of the operation is to exterminate and persecute neo-nationalists which have been basically shearing the Ukraine to become nationalists, basically fascists against Russians. They fabricate history. They go around the streets with torches, with flags. They have a Nazi symbolism in their regalia. Like it's serious stuff. It's not just there are free people who are Nazi in the Ukraine. There is entire paramilitary groups operating there. And it's very probable that they're not self-funded. They're not funded by Ukraine, but they're funded by NATO because NATO are interested in having the control of Ukraine in order to have tactical weaponry on the border with Russia, so that they can pressure Russia, so that they can. I recently heard, I have not verified it yet, but there is some like. There were some reports that there have been found some oil and gas deposits in Ukraine. So basically, if NATO takes over the Ukraine and they have the pressure against Russia, so Russia cannot interfere, they can develop those oil and gas reserves, and they can exclude Russia. They no longer will be required to import Russian gas and oil.
So you don't think Russia wants that too?
Hang on.
We have plenty. The problem is not those specific reserves. The problem is that we are funding the Russia is funding itself by the major part of its GDP from oil and gas it sells itself to Europe.
So yeah, I think most like Western media sources agree that Ukraine does have a Nazi problem, and but it's not. It's more of like an ideological problem, not a problem that's like a threat, like a threat beyond like the threat of like the KKK still existing in the United States. And I mean, Russia has its own like neo-Nazi mob problem as well, right? Would you agree with that?
Russia? No.
Yeah.
No.
Russian separatist warlord who led neo-Nazi Sparta mob is shot dead during battle in eastern Ukraine town in fresh blow to Putin's floundering invasion. And I'll get the name for you.
The pizzazz of this. Like
Vladimir Zoga. Are you familiar? So a leader of a rebel military group is the so-called Donetsk People's Republic, DPR, blamed for brutal war crimes and shooting Ukrainian POWs since its formation in 2014, just died in battle.
Yep.
Now, do you these claims of him being part of a neo-Nazi mob, a Russian neo-Nazi mob, you think those are false?
Of course. He's just trying to protect his state.
Okay.
Donetsk People Republic, DPR.
Okay. And then
it's one of the states that have declared their independence from Ukraine.
Right. So I wanna just talk about morality a little bit here and think of where your stance is. I want to understand your stance better.
Okay.
For me, it's like war and invading another country. Like these are things you do when all diplomacy efforts essentially fail, right?
Yes.
And to me, I don't think the diplomacy efforts here to avoid an all-out war and invasion, I think like I kind of see Russia not getting exactly what it wants, and then it manufactures this idea about potential genocide in the country that there is no evidence of that happening right now.
Well, do you know? Let me interdict it. Do you know that the vast majority of images demonstrated in Western media right now, which are stated as Russian bombing of the civilian infrastructure, so-called, are from Donetsk?
Are from what? Sorry?
Donetsk People's Republic. Those images are taken there. They are not taken in Ukraine.
Okay, so there is some of that going on, like on Twitter, right? But we also have like in the Ukraine, we have like Canadian journalists and podcasters and people from my country that are there covering what is going on. I'm sure you don't believe that all of that footage that I'm seeing over in Canada of what's going on when they're interviewing Russian soldiers, they're interviewing Ukrainian soldiers. Like, you don't think that's all false, do you?
Well, I have to verify. I have to, the only image recently that have been taken in Ukraine was a burning school, which have been struck with a tactical missile because nationalists were hiding there. That's it. At the same time, there is non-stop talk about Russians indiscriminately bombing civilians, hospitals, houses. There were constantly there are fakes in which everything that happens is blamed on Russia. Everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, Russia is the offender here, right? Though, do you agree with that?
They are the offender, but they are not offended. They are not offenders against Ukraine.
Okay,
do not care
but most
about,
of the
like,
Ukrainian
there is-
people feel that they are. And
No.
despite what Putin or you might think, like a lot of Ukrainian people are saying, "Get out of here, go home, stop invading our country. We don't want you here." And then if the Russians are saying, and if the Russians are saying, like we don't like we're just here to get rid of the bad apples, and most of the population is saying like, no, we don't want you to deal with this. We don't want you here. Stop invading our country. Like what?
Well,
It's almost like someone saying like, it's almost like a police officer kicking down your door and saying like, we suspect that there are Nazis hiding here, and they're like, no, we don't want you in our house. There are no Nazis coming here. What are you doing? Why have you invaded our house?
So Pangburn.
That's not exactly the same situation. The situation is, you have a sniper in your room. He's sitting and shooting people from your window, and then people are coming to you, and they knock on your door and say, "Let us in. We're going to take this guy out." And you're saying, "No, we're not gonna get out."
Yeah. We say
That's
no.
it. You have a sniper in your room. He's shooting civilians.
Okay.
Do you understand the situation?
Okay.
So you're saying that we should just sit there and look at them as they bombing civilians.
No. I'm saying
unguided missiles.
I'm saying that if this like this claim of genocide, if that was going on, NATO would
for eight years.
But NATO
for
would be
8
on
years.
NATO would be on board. Well, hang on.
Why?
That I don't think that's.
Oh my
hang on.
Okay.
So, are you claiming that there's been genocide happening for 8 years in the Ukraine?
Yeah. Hey, I have a question.
Yeah.
Again, it's on the border of Ukraine and Russia. There was basically just people killing other people on the Russian border.
Okay. What about how to?
They're separatists.
I'm gonna pull up some information, but let's get some questions. Grim's been wanting to ask a question. We'll go to Bear. Nivik, you've already had a couple questions. We're gonna go to Grim first, and then we'll go Bear.
Thanks, and my apologies if you already said this. I had to step away for a second. But how do you feel about the countries in this amount of 10 years or so that have been trying to get away from Russia, like Georgia? What happened to Croatia? Clearly we see the results of this non-annexation federation alignment. I see more and more countries not liking it, the way it's being handled. So do you see that being part of an issue as well for Ukraine trying to kind of shift gears?
Okay, I will have to make a comparison. How many conflicts do you think USA have started or since the Cold War? I think it's about 2 dozens at least invasions in other countries.
I would say it's every day. I would say they deal with it every day.
So compare it
So
to
what
Russia,
about Israel?
which are basically just have to use military force to basically stop conflict from happening, from stopping civilian deaths from happening. This was in Croatia, this was in Georgia, this was in Crimea. All of these situations are the same. There is something brewing on the border where civilians are threatened by another country. The Georgia situation was with Ossetia. There was, and I don't know, some other state. It's I don't even remember. But it's not us invading the country. We have not captured. We have not take over Georgia. Georgia is still independent country. We just stopped them from killing civilians in Ossetia. That's all we did.
I want to let's get Bear in, and then I want to read something here. Bear, do you have something?
Oh yeah. So I was kidding, but I wasn't really kidding when I said I was gonna phone NATO. That was my brother. He works in the intelligence community. So he's a fucking analyst. Is this being live streamed, by the way?
Yes.
Oh, fuck. All right. Anyway, he's gonna be so pissed. Anywho,
Poor
yeah,
choice.
no, it just the thing. I had a long conversation with him just now. Oh, a little bit of a conversation with him just now, and the thing is that the truth according to everybody's got their own truth, right? But the truth according to the intelligence community is so radically different from the truth according to the news or according to the regular people, right? Like, and
It's very
these
complicated.
well, these are the people who, when it comes down to it, their whole job and career in their life is based on their predictive strategic power. Like if they don't deliver on being able to advise you accurately on strategy and to deliver you like foresight and power, then they don't have a career. And it's so very different. And you guys heard. Like I asked him, hey, guy, is he corrupt? He's like, of course, fucking course he's corrupt. Are you kidding me? So it's not that he's the only person who's corrupt. Like everybody's got a shtick. But yeah, it's very. I'm not going to get into the details, but the stuff that the intelligence community bases their information decision making powers based off of is so radically different from what we hear in the West, right? Like, basically the Russian guy here. I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, but I don't want to say 100% right, but like this is an area where there's so many different factions of people killing each other like constantly all the damn time. The West is not paying attention to, and now it's convenient to feed the West this narrative like, oh, bad Putin, the guy who we wanted to go to war with forever to get regime change in Russia, well, he did some terrible stuff, and it's really dubious. Like, okay, it's a war torn area, so it's kind of like a bonanza for false flag operations right now. If you can bomb out a school or if you can blow up a freaking apartment building right now, it's gonna get blamed on Putin, right? The West is just going to be like, aha, yeah, that's what's going on. So we have all these like little splinter factions of people who are basically rabble rousers and not racketeers, but agent provocateurs who are making the situation seem worse. So whether that's all Russia just being like Russia's interests right now are not to go in there and slaughter and rally up civilians. You know whose interest it is to do that is everybody else there who's been killing each other for a long time. Has like Putin is paying the blowback bill for everybody. He's buying all the drinks are on Putin right now. So if you want to kill your neighbor, if you want to cozy up to whoever you think is going to have power, like that's how it's going.
I want to read through this timeline to see if anyone disagrees with this because I want to read something that references this timeline. So, timeline of the Ukraine crisis. November 2013 to 2014. Euromaidan. Large, mainly peaceful public protests push for closer Ukrainian ties to the West. February 2014. Violent crackdown on Euromaidan protesters. Ukrainian President Yanukovych flees to Russia. Change in power in Kyiv. Do you guys agree with that so far?
Well, basically, yes.
Okay. February to March, and I think this is important just so we get some timeline here. February to March 2014, Russia annexes Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula. Correct?
Yeah, correct.
March.
If you want to call it that, sure.
March to May 2014, pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine call for the creation of self-proclaimed, quote, people's republics in Donetsk and Luhansk. I can't pronounce
Donetsk, Lugansk.
Yeah, there we go. June, August 2014, the Ukrainian, a lot going on in 2014. June to August 2014, the Ukrainian army pushes back separatists in the regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. Then September 2014, a ceasefire is negotiated in the Belarusian capital of Minsk. It holds only for a few days. February 2015. Okay, that was September. So we got a few months. A new ceasefire is reached through fragile and sporadically violated by all sides. It largely holds until today. June 2017, a couple of years later, the Ukrainian parliament votes for the goal of joining NATO. So that was in 2017. September 2020, so they vote. There was a vote, for the goal of joining NATO, and I believe that vote was in support of joining NATO. Correct? I believe.
I
so.
don't believe so.
You don't believe so?
Otherwise, they would join NATO.
Sorry. No, but they're voting on whether it should be a goal of theirs, right? Let's see. Vote results of 2017. I want to see what the results are.
Like it's like Putin elections.
You think the elections are kind of fudged like they are in Russia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very likely.
But most of the people don't lean towards Russia.
How can you say?
So I want to see the NATO.
We're talking about Russians.
Nivik, if you're going to make a claim like that, bring some data. Bring a data point that we can look at. Don't just make a claim.
They voted to go into NATO, right?
Ukrainian
Allegedly.
parliament passes constitutional amendment to reflect EU NATO aspirations. Okay, so this passed 334 to 17. So resounding victory for the people, wanting to move towards joining NATO. So September 2020, so 3 years later, Ukrainian President Zelensky confirms NATO membership as a strategic national goal. March to April of 2021, the Kremlin sends Russian troops near the border to Ukraine. In June 2021, a U.S.-Russia meeting in Geneva fails to bring the Ukraine crisis to an end. December 2021, this last December, Russia demands security guarantees, including NATO denying membership to Ukraine. Let's read that again. December 2021, Russia demands security guarantees, including NATO denying membership to Ukraine. So Russia makes this demand. And then again in December, Russia increases the number of troops near the Ukrainian border to some 100,000. January to February 2022, several meetings between top Western and Russian diplomats fail to ease tensions over the Ukraine crisis. February 2nd, 2022, the U.S. sends additional troops to Eastern European NATO members. February 10th, 2022, Russia and Belarus hold joint maneuvers near the Ukrainian border. February 21st, 2022, Russia recognizes the independence of separatist regions, Donetsk and Luhansk, or however you pronounce it, in eastern Ukraine. Moscow orders its troops to enter the breakaway regions, and then of course, on February 24th, 2022, Russia attacks Ukraine. So democratically, in a vote, an absolute resounding yes, we want to move towards becoming a NATO member, right? Putin
Allegedly, yes.
Oh, okay, but okay, so that's what we have so far, unless there is a conspiracy to fuck with that vote. But unless there's a conspiracy that doesn't reflect the people, that was how that vote ended up 11 to like 300 and or 17 to 334 who passed this. So if we of course it's always possible there's a conspiracy wrapped up in that, but let's say there's no conspiracy for now.
Yeah, let's assume.
Well, just for the sake of argument, that democratically this country wants to move in the direction, do what they need to do to get in bed with NATO. And then what I see is a country coming together and saying, this is what we want. And then Russia's saying, no, you're not allowed to do that. We don't want you to do that. It's not up to Russia. Why does Russia think it's up to Russia?
Well, it's not only about Russia, really. Again, we're talking about a neighbor country having military bases of a third party before it joins NATO.
Divine, what you said
Okay,
makes no sense because if you don't.
But hang on. Even if... So Russia's got military forces all over the border of the Ukraine, right? Why doesn't the Ukraine have the same right to have whoever they can ally with provide them with a reasonable level of defense against their border, on their border? What the fuck does Russia?
Defense.
Sorry?
Because it's not a defense. It's not a defense when you have basically a base that is prepared to house nuclear weapons.
Yeah, but why should the Ukraine not eventually be able to have nuclear weapons and be able to defend themselves against people who that if they're not doing something that the other country another country wants, that they can just come in and invade? Of course, Russia isn't going to invade the Ukraine if they have weapons of mass destruction.
And there's another thing, Patrick. They don't achieve their objective logically because let's say hypothetically you take over Ukraine. Guess what? You still have NATO along your borders, armed along your borders. So you're not going to achieve a goal of not having the neighbor being armed along your border. He actually made it worse for himself.
I wanted to also read, like, now that we've gone through that. Okay, so here's a claim. And here's a fact check. Russia falsely, this is what this is trying to demonstrate. Russia falsely blames Ukraine for starting war. Russia's foreign ministry said Moscow was acting to end the, quote, systematic extermination of the Donbas population that had been supposedly ongoing since 2014. So this is what you were just talking about, Divine. The claim is that, quote, Russia did not start a war, it is ending it, end quote, wrote Maria Zakharova, Russia's foreign ministry spokesperson. Do you agree with that claim? Like Russia didn't start it, it's ending it?
Well, basically, yes.
Okay. In doing so, she framed the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine as part of the wider Donbas conflict, which has been raging for years. Russian President Vladimir Putin had argued similarly at the outset of the Russian attack when he falsely justified Russia's offensive as an act of self-defense in line with Article 51 of the UN Charter. Zakharova also claimed that Ukraine planned the systemic extermination of the Donbas population. So that was a claim that this was planned. So of course we're going to have to investigate to see if there's any evidence that this was planned. So it's a narrative that's also being spread by Russian state broadcaster in this retweet that they do. So the fact check, this DW fact check says false, says both of Zakharova's statements are false. The current armed conflict began when Russian troops entered Ukraine on February 21st, shortly after Putin, during a televised speech, announced a special military operation in the Ukraine. I'll get through this and then you can respond. Russia started the fighting and triggered an ongoing escalation when it crossed into Ukrainian territory. The second claim made by the Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson is also false. There is no evidence whatsoever that there was a, quote, systematic extermination of people in the Donbas. So your response to that, like, I feel the same at this moment, and I believe currently there is no evidence that's been presented that there was a systematic extermination or a plan of that for the people of Donbass. And you disagree with that?
Of course.
Okay, now what has led you to believe? Now, what has led you to believe that there is such a planned systematic extermination?
Casualties, destruction. There is video evidence for the destroyed infrastructure in Donbass region.
Okay,
so we're talking about unguided missile barrages fired at civilian infrastructure.
Okay,
Ukraine.
now who? So you're saying it's the Ukrainian government
Yes.
firing at Donbass?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to see if I can find anything on that, because I would like you to share with me any resources you have about this conflict. Okay, there's a Russian news agency called TASS. Is that one you read?
What?
TASS. It's a Russian news agency. TASS. I don't know if that's one you read or not.
I read different sources.
Yeah. So here's a interesting. I'm sure you agree with this. This is from this is a Russian news agency. It says extermination of people in Donbass underway for 8 years. World is silent. Patriarch says. The residents of Donbass have been suffering for 8 years. They are being exterminated while the entire world is silent. Patriarch Kirill of Moscow and all Russia said on Sunday. Let's see what they say. For 8 years, the suppression, extermination of people has been underway in Donbass. 8 years of suffering and the entire world is silent. We know that our brothers and sisters are really suffering. Moreover, they may suffer for their fidelity to the church. He said during a sermon following the divine liturgy at the Christ the Savior Cathedral. The sixth. Okay, I'm going to see if there's any kind of demonstration. The 16th. I think it says primate. Primate of the Russian Orthodox Church reiterated that today is the Shrove Sunday, the day of forgiveness, and urged worshippers to forgive all sins and offenses, stressing that, okay, a lot of religious stuff here. Forgiveness without justice is capitulation and weakness. Let's see. Russia's. Okay, Okay, that was pretty short. So there's a claim here by this Kirill of Moscow, but I don't see any like there's a claim that this is going on, and it's literally at the top. Oh, this came out a day ago. I'll send this to you so you have this, Divine. But yeah, help me understand your position a little better, because when someone like me is asking, where is the evidence? And if someone says, oh, well, it's there, they're just covering up, or we have it and we're just not showing the rest of the world for whatever reason. Like the Russians could just show NATO the evidence, right?
And
like, what do you think is going to happen if Russia releases to the entire world that this is our evidence of this genocide that's been taking place, like this person said, for 8 years.
Like this is the point. You have no idea. You don't even know that it was happening all this time. Like,
why do you think it has? Yeah, but is it? Could you be getting bad information?
Understand.
Could you be getting bad information on this?
Russia is being ignored. To understand that, like, we are not. Nobody is listening to us.
Yeah, but if you don't get listened to, if you think that people don't care what you think, that's not reasonable justification to go in and create what seems to be a made up narrative about like genocide happening and then invade a country that has voted 377 seats to 17 seats that they want to move towards being a part of NATO. This
What
is
is like? Give me your explanation. What is the best course of action for Russia at this point? What was the correct what was the correct course of action in this situation? Like, tell me.
So first of all, Putin should seek to verify these claims of genocide, and if genocide actually is happening, and Russia cares about this issue, they should be publicizing all of this information to the world.
And they did.
No,
like,
where?
You have read the timeline about the Minsk agreements, the ceasefire, right?
Yes, yeah. So there's a do you think that is genocide? Why do you think that's genocide?
Well, because you have people firing unguided missile barrages at civilians. How else you're going to name it?
And when and has are you saying that's been going on like that has been going
For
on
8 years.
up until this invasion?
Yes. Like, can you like imagine the situation in which you are living in a town which can be bombed with unguided missiles at any moment?
Okay,
Just
the war.
out of the blue.
I want you to tell me if you disagree with this. Okay, the war in Donbass, or the Donbass War, is an armed conflict in the Donbass region of the Ukraine. Part of the broader Russian-Ukrainian war, part of the broader Russia-Ukrainian war. In March 2014, immediately following the Euromaidan protest movement and subsequent revolution of dignity, protests by pro-Russian anti-government separatist groups took place in Donetsk and Luhansk. We've read through that, collectively called the Donbass. These demonstrations began around the same time as Russia's annexation of Crimea, and were part of wider pro-Russian protests across southern and eastern Ukraine. Declaring the Donetsk and Luhansk, again, sorry for the pronunciation, People's Republic, DPR and LPR respectively, armed Russian-backed separatist groups seized government buildings throughout the Donbass. Did they or did they not seize government buildings throughout the Donbass?
I guess they did.
Okay.
Like,
okay, hang on. How is a government to react if a mob seizes government infrastructure within your country, leading to armed conflict with the Ukrainian government forces? Like,
I think you do not understand.
But how is the Ukrainian government supposed to react to that?
I don't know. Maybe they shouldn't fire unguided missiles at their own citizens, right? It's not very
is that not
moral,
what
I think.
Is that not what Putin is doing right now? Isn't there a claim from Russia like this is our land, like this is they are Russian? You don't hear that narrative at all?
Well, they are Russians because we are basically the same people. They're just
That's exactly what I was just saying.
independent country.
Yeah,
But we're not gonna conquer them. That's not the point.
yeah, but do you realize what I just read is that essentially this group of radicals seized government buildings throughout Donbass.
They are not radicals. They're the people who are living there.
I understand, but they seized government buildings, which led to why do they think they're allowed to go and seize government buildings?
Because they can decide if they see the change of power as legitimate or not. So they're not convinced that the change of power was legitimate or not. Yep.
Then you go and seize government buildings?
What else are you going to do? You are going to take the local power into your own hands.
No. Okay. Do you agree that the Ukraine is operating democratically?
I mean, like bombing civilians. It's not very democratic.
No, I mean with like
don't
having
think so.
having votes and representation. Like do you not see Ukraine wanting to be like Canada, for example?
I don't believe so. From what I've seen and heard, I don't think so.
So what do you think Ukraine is trying to be right now? Do you think they're trying to be like fascists or Nazis or what? Like what do you
They
think?
just want to be their own country and neutral.
Yep.
Okay, but don't you think they're trending towards democracy? Like I'm just talking about like the way you would go about. Here's what I'm trying to get at. If you believed that you were in a democracy and you started like having these ideas that like, oh, the voting is rigged, like the United States went through this. There were large groups of people that thought that the voting was rigged, right? But they didn't seize government buildings. They protested, right? And there was the January 6th protest that got out of hand and some people got killed. But if like, how do you think the United States is going to react if like citizens seize government buildings?
It depends on what the context of the situation.
Okay,
like,
but let's imagine the same
they,
context.
Like imagine that some state in the USA decides that they're going to separate from USA. What is the right course of action in this situation? Like you have the mayor, like maybe the mayors, the local powers. They decide that they no longer want to be the part of USA.
Yeah.
And
Then you either have to move. You either have to move, or you have to work within the democratic process to seek separation.
Sure.
Or
And
you
then-
can form. Look,
saying.
and then there is the third option, of course, of forming your own military and taking over pieces of land. But
And
if you're going to declare war, like essentially you have this small group in the Donbass that are declaring that are like taking over government buildings and declaring war. How do you expect the government to react? Like to not try to like defeat them?
Patrick,
When did they declare war? They never declared the war. The Ukraine declared war on them. On
Travis,
the separatists.
But they
You guys
seized.
not
Hang
being
on,
honest.
Nivik, just don't interrupt for now. But they seized the government buildings, right? Are you saying that the Ukraine government declared war on them before they seized those buildings?
No, they declared war on them of destruction, basically, because they are separatists. They want to separate from Ukraine, and Ukraine is saying, "No, you are part of us.
Yes.
Or agree with that, or we're gonna destroy you." Unless you agree that you are a part of Ukraine, we are going to kill you continuously until nothing left.
Well, what do you
Is
think?
that
What if
democracy?
these protests? Hang on here. So while the initial protests were largely native expressions of discontent with the new Ukrainian government, Russia took advantage of them to launch a coordinated political and military campaign against the Ukraine. Do you agree with that?
No.
Russian
They
citizens.
never launched it against
Okay.
Ukraine. Ukraine is not a problem here.
Okay, hang on. So Russian citizens led the separatist movement in Donetsk from April until 2014 and were supported by volunteers and material from Russia. Do you agree with that? Like Russian citizens
Yes.
led the separatist. Okay, so inside the Ukraine, Russian citizens led the separatist movement in Donetsk from April until August 2014 and were supported by volunteers and material from Russia. So Russia supported this uprising, right? As the conflict escalated in May 2014, Russia employed a, quote, hybrid approach deploying a combination of disinformation, irregular fighters, regular Russian troops, and conventional military support to destabilize the Donbass. Do you agree with that?
Nope.
Okay, so let's go through that claim. So as the conflict escalated in May 2014, do you agree that Russia employed regular fighters and regular Russian troops?
Yep.
Okay, and conventional military support?
Yep.
To destabilize the Donbass?
Nope.
Okay, so you
they
say
employed
okay.
them in protection of the people.
Okay, so you say that they were doing it for the protection of the people. Okay, so you agree with the destabilization and you disagree with the disinformation.
Yep.
Okay, that's clear. And how common, like what you just said, like disagreeing with the disinformation and conventional military and to destabilize the Donbass. Do you think most Ukrainians, and this is just a speculation question, but do you think most Ukrainians would believe that Russia was doing this to destabilize the Donbass?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Again, I don't know as many
sure.
as many people as it would require. I just know that people think that that Russians just were protecting other Russians.
Okay, so now here we go. Here we go to Ukraine's reaction to this.
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine launched a military counteroffensive against pro-Russian forces in April 2014 called the Anti-Terrorist Operation, ATO, from 2014 until 2018, when it was renamed the Joint Forces Operation, JFO. By late August 2014, the operation was able to vastly shrink the territory under the control of pro-Russian forces and came close to regaining control of the Russia-Ukraine border. Do you agree with all that, like that account?
To some extent, yes.
Okay. In response, Russia abandoned its hybrid approach and began, and I know you disagree with how that was framed, and began a conventional invasion of the Donbass. Do you agree with that?
I do not understand what that's supposed to mean.
Russia abandoned.
If you have your basically peacekeeping army, like your regiments of army in those two regions, Donetsk and Lugansk, and those regiments are protecting people from basically friendly fire from Ukraine and fighting back, how can you then call like having those people there as an invasion?
Okay. We haven't got to invasion yet, but following reports of Ukrainian positions being shelled from the Russian side of the border between 22 and 25th of August 2014, Russian artillery personnel and what Russia called a humanitarian convoy crossed the border. And this was in 2014. Russian crossings reportedly occurred both in areas that were controlled by pro-Russian forces. So I'm waiting to get to where yes, there was this conflict, but where's this genocide of the separatists? Like I'm looking through the information, like the recollection of what has gone on, because like you understand that, like, okay, people took up arms and Russia supported it, and the Ukrainians are like, wow, we have this revolt happening in our country. We need to, and it's causing terror. We need to stifle this. And the Ukrainian government decided to create the JFO or the ATO. And or are you looking something up?
No.
Okay, now, and then despite this, the area remained a war zone with dozens of soldiers and civilians killed each month. In 2017, on average, one Ukrainian soldier died in combat every 3 days, with an estimated 6,000 Russians and 40,000 separatist troops in the region. By the end of 2017, the OSCE observation mission had counted around 30,000 individuals in military gear crossing from Russia to Donbass at the 2 border checkpoints it was allowed to monitor. The OSCE has also documented many cases of military convoys crossing from Russia into the occupied Donbas on dirt roads, away from official border crossings, and usually at night. Since the start of the conflict, there have been 29 ceasefires, each intended to remain in force indefinitely, but none of them have stopped the violence. The most successful attempt. So civil unrest, taking up arms against the government. So essentially a civil war.
Trace, hold on. Where can you send you the link?
Oh, just
right
you
now?
can DM it to me.
Okay. All right. I don't know if it's gonna work correctly, but
So those of you who are jumping in now, our guest Divine Evil is from Russia, and we're just talking about the Russia-Ukraine war. We're going to be having a group discussion at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time with our host John Parker. But yeah, let me take a look at the link. Okay, here we go. Holy, that's a big link.
no, it's a Google search.
Oh, okay. This is and this is from this conflict, right?
This is from Donetsk.
Yeah.
This is the place.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. There's images of destruction, villages, all kinds of buildings being destroyed, and this was, these were regions that the Russia enforced separatists were able to take control of, right?
Yep.
Right.
So basically, you have civilians doing their job. Then they're going bombed with Ukraine. Russians are fighting back. Then ceasefire. Then and that can happen any day. That was the situation for 8 years.
Yeah, there was 29 of these ceasefires.
14,000 civilian casualties.
Yeah.
Nobody
and this
cares
is
about those.
Oh no.
Nobody knows.
Why do you think nobody knows? This is all Wikipedia documents this.
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, this is I like Divine. I agree that it's like in the West, it's not like headline news, but we hear about the issues in
remember
Ukraine.
what you actually hear about those situations in 8 years.
Yeah,
Think about it. For us, this is something that happens almost here.
Right. Yeah, I get it. Like
at the very border.
Yeah.
This is not like some distant country that is that situated on the other side of the earth.
Yeah, I get it.
This is our basically our people, our family members, our friends.
Yep.
They're living there, and they're just being bombed because they do not recognize the Ukrainian revolution, so-called. They do not recognize the legitimacy, and they do not want to be part of Ukraine that is led by this illegitimate power.
Okay.
And that is the result.
Okay, but the result. Do you think they had to seize government buildings and take over regions militaristically? Can you not start a movement democratically in a democracy like we see happening in democracies to fight for change? Why?
Well, you're overestimating the value of democracy. Most democracies in the world are just oligarchy that is painted as democracy. When your president is just basically pulled out of the country because he do not want to be killed by nationalists, this is not democracy. This is not the legitimate transfer of power. This is just the same tax which are you presenting to me as an example. Taking over the entire country.
I agree. Look, I agree with you that like in Canada,
Like,
let me try to put
just-
myself in
okay.
the shoes of someone. Like in Canada, if someone was removed from office and someone was there that I didn't believe actually earned it democratically, what would I do? I would use my mind to work within the law of the land to try to make a difference. I would not raise arms and seize land from the government without the expectation of the government coming in and absolutely wiping us out and pulverizing us for doing so, because we would be treated like a terrorist group, right? Like a group spreading terror within the country. Like my question, like why can't the separatists, like we've had an issue with this in Canada. We've had Quebec wanting to separate from Canada. We've had separatists like this, but they were, the people who were, strongly for this movement. They didn't result to like, taking up arms and seizing government assets that belong to the taxpayer. And I mean, if that happened, like I would want my Canadian military to go in there and police that situation.
Well, that's not policing situation when you're bombing your own civilians who are separating.
Sure
from
it
you.
is. Sure it is. Yeah, sure. So me as a taxpayer, I'm in British Columbia. Me as a taxpayer, I pay taxes for this land, for my country, for Canada. If some group decides they're going to take over a certain part of Canada that I pay for, and that's part of my country, I want my government, I pay my government to police that stuff. And we have, within the law of the land, we have ways of going about promoting these ideas and trying to bring these ideas to fruition without taking up arms and doing this by force.
Then you do not understand Russians, and you do not.
Well, maybe the problem.
do not understand nationalists.
Maybe there's something wrong with the Russian way of thinking about this. Have you ever thought about that? Like, there might be something wrong within Russian culture, the people that think that this is okay to be doing. Do you not think that there might be something wrong with that way of thinking, as opposed to going about like, oh, okay, I realize that we are the minority here. We shouldn't just take up arms and take control of certain parts of the land, because other people should be able to access this land. Other people who pay taxes. Like, how arrogant of me would it be to just decide, me and my posse, that we're going to take over these sections of this country and say fuck you to everyone else that wants to go there who disagrees. What do you expect a country to do?
Well, what do you expect? Like, can you imagine the situation in which your country, like the president in your country, is basically extracted from the country because he can be killed, and then people are running in the capital of your country, are people running with assault rifles and shooting everyone who speaks your language.
That has happened.
Then you expect to just sit peacefully and wait for them to come for you.
No, hang on. If people were being killed simply because they're speaking a certain language, that's a crime against humanity.
Yes.
And in that
that's what
situation, the Russians should swallow their fucking pride and call upon other nations like NATO to help out with what's going on, which would be crimes against humanity. This is why we have a joint council of nations to talk about shit like this. It's not the first time
Yeah.
we've dealt with this.
And NATO doesn't care. That's the point.
No, that's not
We're-
true.
we're-
Bullshit. My
That
country
is true.
cares. If there was people being slaughtered at the other side of the world because just simply because they're speaking a different
no
language.
Understanding.
You keep saying that, but I'm not getting the same. Like, I'm reading the information.
Of
I'm
course you're
trying
not.
to find. I know, but is this not just a big fat conspiracy? If you're not giving me like something where I can see like, oh, here's the evidence. Here's the evil side of what we're not seeing over in the West. All I'm hearing is, and I've spoken to many Russians in the past few weeks, and they're telling me like, oh, you don't see what's actually going on, Pangburn. And I'm like, well, show me what's going on. And then you just sent me a link to all these photos after I'm reading all this information, when I already agreed that there's this like military operation, this fighting happening, but you're calling it a genocide, like they're being killed for being separatists. They're being killed because they took up arms and took a chunk of the land for themselves within the Ukrainian land.
And you know what the democratic solution will be? Discussion. Find a common ground. Try to
Sure.
to make up it peacefully. You're not just going to bring vehicles with unguided missiles and fire at them, right? Is that your solution to the problem?
Look, in Canada, let's say if Quebec said, okay, everyone who isn't for this separating Quebec, get the fuck out of here because we are seizing this land. Okay, so then you have all these people in Quebec that don't want to separate from Canada, that need to exit out, right? They don't want to be there because they know bad things are coming. Because if you get your group of people together in a democracy and say, fuck democracy, we're just gonna take over Quebec and we're gonna stand up and we're gonna be our own fucking nation. And then you are shocked when Canada comes in with its military and starts bombarding you and saying you must stop, you must surrender. What the fuck, man? You can't just take over a big like a chunk of your country and think that they think that the people are going to be okay with their government just standing idly by. And there's a terror element to this, right? Like, I don't like, I want to understand better.
Well, you're trying to understand, but you're following the same Western narrative. You think that
I'm not.
everything.
No, I'm not.
Like,
I am not.
Everything. Let me speak.
Okay.
You're trying to find a solution that doesn't involve war. We have tried for 8 years to find that solution. There was several Minsk agreements to cease this conflict, to find a diplomatic solution.
You called
to stop
Russia?
To stop civilians.
Russia has called this genocide, and it is not. That's fake. Divine. It's fake.
Okay, that's your okay.
Okay, but no, I'm not saying that's just my opinion. It's just fake. It's fake news. Like that part of it. Like you have to agree with me. Like when
I don't.
See, that's the part I have a real hard time with, Divine. It's like I want us to be able to agree on like, okay, there's a difference between there's a difference between genocide, like what you're saying, like people being killed for simply speaking a different language. If that was going on, oh my God, we need everyone in the world to give all the resources to find those criminals and bring them to justice.
Yes.
And we should all work together. But
sure,
if the Russians really felt that way, and if they come to the table, like let's say at the UN and say, look, or they send out a message saying that, look, we we think there's genocide going on, and we'll say, okay, where's the genocide? Where's the genocide happening? We want to help with this. We want to make sure that people are not being killed for simply speaking another language. The rest of the world, including Canada, is all on board with policing against that crazy shit.
You
But-
are on board. You are.
No, everyone is.
That's the
Canada
point.
intervenes in this
is-
all around the world. Whenever there's crimes
Where?
against humanity, we send aid
When?
all around the world. The United States
Cool.
sends military aid.
Oh, United States, of course.
No, but I'm not saying. And this is something
they
you and
are
I.
best at it.
This is something you and I will probably agree on, that the United States has overstepped in things in the past, like this weapons of mass destruction claim that brings the United States into Iraq. It's a crock of crap, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I look, okay,
You do
you
not
and I
understand the big
both
picture
agree.
here.
But no, this is what I keep hearing from Russians, but like you and I both agree that if people are being killed simply for their beliefs or for their or for the language they speak, like this is crimes against humanity. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So if that is happening, we need to hold the parties responsible who allowed for that to happen. It may actually be like a general, or it may be a certain battalion that engaged against crimes against humanity. But if you can show me, I would love for you to see some information where the Ukrainian government issued orders, or the Ukrainian military issued orders to slaughter people who speak this particular language, or slaughter people of this origin or this idea. Like that
This is so
hasn't
naive.
happened.
This is painful to
How is this naive though,
listen.
Divine? I'm asking
Because-
you for the information so I can.
How can if you have a paramilitary group in the country which under closed gates, without any publicity, persecutes people who are speaking Russian just for this, just because they do not want, they associate with Russia, just for that you are killing and robbing and raping and torturing them, and there
Where
is
is
no
that
documents
happening?
in the open in Ukraine. They fabricate history that says that Ukraine is not in the past the part of Russia. They have nothing to do with Russia.
So
They fabricate history, teach it to the children. They teach children to be nationalists.
okay, if Russia, okay, these are a bunch of other things that are being added, but if Russia really wanted like what they truly do want out of the Ukraine, and this was actually going on, why would they not demonstrate this to the world? Like
They did.
where?
That's the point.
Where? I don't have any information that shows me, and I don't work for the Ukrainians. I don't work for Canadian government. I don't work for anyone. I want to know I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible about what's going on over here. And
Then do your research without trusting Western
I'm
propaganda.
not looking at Western propaganda. I'm literally
What are you looking at?
I'm literally looking for. I just sent you the Russian government publication where it says it says like, okay, this guy's story about what he witnessed or what he saw. But I'm looking for I don't care who it's coming from. I don't care if it's coming from the Russian government. I want to see the information they are giving out to citizens that, like you, that make them believe that this has happened. I want to see the same information you have seen that convinced you. And you sent me pictures of this conflict in Donbass, but when we look at the information behind it, it's a civil war, right?
Well, you can call it that, yeah.
And it's not a civil war it's a civil war based on, basically what we were of what we were talking about, kind of in the Canadian example of like, you know, these separatists wanted to, you know, there was enough support for them to take control of certain things, certain.
I want to ask a very, very important question.
Sure.
Have you heard the entire declaration of Putin with translated subtitles?
Yeah. So I have seen as much of Putin as I can get my hands on. I don't know which one. I've seen a lot of.
There was he was speaking two times. First, he was giving a historical context for what is about to happen. And the second speech, he says that we have no choice. We have tried everything to fix that situation peacefully or diplomatically. We have, like, it would be hard, but we have to do this. That's like in a shortest version of what he said. And after that, he declares the special operation on Ukraine.
War.
Have you heard this? This is not a war. The communications are open. Energy is provided. Food is provided. The people who want to live to safety, they are given the way to live to safety. This is military operation.
It's an invasion of another country.
Sure.
So it's the same as, look, I'm not saying that the U.S. is any different with Iraq. Like, there was declaration of war, right?
Well, war against who? Against Ukraine, without taking any infrastructure under control, without taking any administrative control of the situation, with entire cities giving up the free passage to the military, to the Russian military. This is war, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
where civilians basically just sitting there and looking how Russians are passing by.
Well, you must hang on though. This happens in war all the time. Like when Germany, invaded Poland. It's
sure.
It's like some Polish people are clapping their hands and Germany's rolling in, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, sometimes war is going to include like, okay, we want to minimize the citizen suffering here, because who wants a country that's completely flattened? This is like the whole Taiwan and China thing. Like, yes, China could flatten Taiwan, but if they want to go in and do it like in a way where they're going to have something left, it's just not going to fucking happen. But anyways,
Yeah.
that's a different story. But one thing I wanted to ask you, Divine, a little more, just getting down to the feelings of this. So the Russian soldiers and of course the Ukrainians who are resisting and the Ukrainian military, of course you would agree that they feel as though they are at war, right?
Well, Ukrainians are certainly gonna tell that they are at war. Sure.
Yeah.
We like our officials like representation of this is that it's a military operation, because in the general strategy of this operation is not to harm any Ukrainians. This is not about Ukraine. This is not about their power. This is not about their communications. This is not about their logistics. This is not about civilians. This is not about houses or hospitals or schools or towns or taking over or controlling the administration. We do not care about any of this. Our goal is to take away the illegitimate power that have been forced upon Ukraine. This is what's happening. This is why, like, again, if this was a war, if you do not really understand what Russia is, the country which have basically like defeated Nazi Germany in open conflict, like more than anyone else, on the ground without any diversions or naval warfare, just like direct contact, where he almost being defeated and then pushing back and then defeating the Nazis. I'm
not
this is Russia.
diminishing.
If we would be if this was a war, we have won like 4 days ago, because we would flatten everything. We would not even need to step on the country.
You wouldn't.
They would not need to be strategic and tactical and make precision strikes against particular military.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't want to level something that creates like 150 billion that has 150 billion GDP, right? Or whatever the number is for, like, it would be retarded to go in there and just like flatten all of Ukraine. And of course, I'm not saying that Russia wouldn't be able to do that. Although if NATO gets involved, Russia's fucked. Do you agree with that?
What do you mean? In what way?
If NATO declares war on Russia and Russia doesn't cease fire and go back to leave the Ukrainian land, I mean the NATO forces would overwhelm Russia substantially,
no.
Right?
If NATO will get involved directly, then everyone is fucked. Everyone.
You think? Why do you think that? Because
then we will have a nuclear war.
Why do you think if World War III broke out that nuclear arms would necessarily be used?
Because Putin have like openly declared that the special how is it called? Yeah. Like basically he made the hint that if the entire point of all those all that is happening against Russia from the West, like economic blockade basically, is because NATO cannot be involved. If it will get involved, then we will have a nuclear war.
What do you think of like national missile defense systems and how they might cancel out the efficacy of nukes?
The thing is that Russia has one of the most massive offensive nuclear capability, and we also have the most modern ones.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
If you think that there is a way to neutralize Russian nuclear potential, you're wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I think NATO would have to strike first and destroy Russia's ability to launch nuclear weapons. That would be, I think if NATO was, I think very much the same way that Russia disabled, almost all, very swiftly, almost all of the military airports and the little bit of Navy that the Ukraine had almost instantaneously. I think that's what the Allied forces, what NATO would have to do to Russia right off the bat, and this would have to be set up. And it's hard to do because Russia is going to be at ready for all of this to occur. So,
this was pre-planned basically.
Yeah, so I mean that's the only way you're going to avoid this. Like, I don't want to see nukes drop. I don't want to see World War III.
Me neither.
That would be you and I might see each other on the battlefield.
But you can't just run to Russia.
We do not really matter as individuals. It doesn't matter. Like if there is a war in which West and the East are gonna try to destroy one another, we do not matter at all.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about that. do you are you signed up for military service in Russia, or
I'm in the reserve.
oh, you're in the reserves? Okay.
Yeah.
I have to say this, that my moral consideration, I give it to everyone, including Putin, and to yourself. Like, stay safe, man. And I do hope that we can minimize the amount of casualties in this conflict. And I have to say that I wish that the war of ideas was the only war that could get things done, or that was necessary, that kind of like we engaged in today.
Well, again, like, I am not for war in any manner. Like, again, I'm standing by my initial statement. This was inevitable because we have tried everything else, and again,
the other option was to just let Ukraine deal with this uprising themselves, and for Russia to just stay out of it and forget about these wishes of controlling the Ukraine any further.
But it's like, again, it's like the same thing as if Israel is invaded by Nazis and you're just sitting idle and letting it resolve itself.
No,
again,
that's not the same.
We're talking about two states, Russian-speaking states, on the border of Ukraine. Everyone there is speaking Russians. Speaking Russian. They are basically their country are taken over by nationalists, which are standing on the roads with assault rifles and shooting at people who speak Russian or who have a Russian flag or who have any known allegiance with Russia.
You're saying the Ukrainians are doing this right now, during the war?
Well, yeah, because Donetsk is still being bombed right now. Even though they're the Ukraine is basically surrounded from all sides except from NATO countries, some NATO countries borderline. It's all surrounded by Russian troops who are just keeping the border secure. And at this very time, even though Ukraine is basically on the defensive, the nationalists are still bombing the DPR and LPR.
Right, because that's that's kind of seems to be at the heart of a lot of this, right? Ukraine wants this unrest to be done with and to return the country to its rightful owners, which are the people, the general populace.
Yeah.
So, okay. Now the other thing I want to ask you, what do you think about these economic sanctions? Like, aren't these going to just completely starve out Russia?
Russia is a big country, and that's the first thing. And the second thing, when you're hearing about other countries, defining their position on the situation, when you are hearing China is standing neutral, they are not against Russia. They're neutral. They withhold their judgment. This means that they support us. You have to know. They do not. They are highly tied with USA, so they have no leisure to offer their vocal support for this. Same with many different countries around Russia who are saying that we are withholding. Some are smaller countries that have no ties to the Western economies. They are supporting us. Because there is no risk. But the point is that all economic sanctions are they are two-edged sword. If you are cutting some way of interactions with Russia, you are also doing some harm to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, but it's much worse on Russia, right? If a lot of countries are getting involved. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, there seems to be a lot of protest within Russia of people who are, against with what your government is doing. Why do you think those people disagree, and why do you think they're saying this is all a conspiracy theory that's driving this? Like Putin's just doing this for X reasons, your own countrymen disagree with you and would agree with me.
Well, as far as I can tell, this is mostly the people who are, as I was previously, bedazzled by the situation. They're cannot believe that we are at war with someone. Basically, practically, we're making this military operation. And they do not research further. They have no context for why it's happening.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
maybe maybe there are some people who are just against Putin and always been against Putin, and fair enough.
Or maybe they're right.
Asshole.
Right. Maybe they're right.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe maybe you're wrong. Maybe I'm right in the position I'm taking up here, right? And it's tough. And look, I don't envy your position right now. It's tough, and I don't know. I know that there are certain things you can say and certain things you can't say. Although you are anonymously speaking to me right now. I feel free to send me any video, or if you want to chat again and give me an update or any more information at any point in time. Keep me in the loop. But I've rattled your ear enough, I think, and
yeah,
I appreciate you talking to me, man.
Sure. Yeah, I'll try to find some sources if I can find it. Some of them are probably just deleted because they're so old. So okay. There is a problem with that, but I will try my best with that.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. All right, guys. Divine Evil. That was exciting and shocking, enlightening, interesting, all that stuff. I'm going to keep this window open. Nivik, your response to that exchange?
I think when he mentioned people in the U.S., with the U.S. interfering with other countries that have nothing to do with them culturally. I really believe it's just about seeing Ukraine once being a part of Russia, and that breaking off should have never have happened. And it's just right. It's about rightfully taking back. Is all.
Right. What up, Cameron?
Oh, hi.
Yeah, how's it going?
It's going good.
Good. Did you catch any of that convo?
I joined for half of it.
Oh, okay.
So I wasn't there for the whole thing.
Any response? Do you have a response to any of it?
I just don't know if we know how many Russians are in support and are not in support, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be, what we can say is that there's been mass arrests, and, there's been large, we have video footage that was collected by Western news sources of people being arrested for, protesting the war. So we have a bit of information, but now, as of a few days ago, some of these news outlets have left Russia because of the threat of being imprisoned.
Yeah.
For reporting in some ways. So.
Mm-hmm. One thing I would say is that I feel like videos are kind of a sketchy way to get information regarding stuff, because a lot of times it depends on the angles that are shown, and
Yeah,
it doesn't exactly show how often this is. I don't know if there's exact numbers on all those things. So
right.
have you seen
Yeah,
any
yeah. I mean,
numbers?
exact numbers. Like, people are speaking in terms of like, hundreds of protesters or and these are just being observed by various journalists. So I think yeah, trying to get the clamp is down. I think on the Russian people who are wish to speak out against this war effort or military operation. It sounds like people like Divine want to call it a military operation, but
When he mentioned nukes, by the way, he said like if NATO ever get involved, it will potentially go there. But he said before that NATO is involved in Ukraine already. Why Russia is
I'm not sure.
invading in the
Yeah,
first place?
I'm
NATO's
not sure.
involved.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, NATO's already sending forces to the to the borders of other nations.
So are we going to get nuked?
Well,
Well,
here's the thing. I'm
but
not
it's not like it's NATO versus
necessarily
Russia, right?
I'm not necessarily convinced that Russia would be able to successfully nuke overseas. I'm not necessarily convinced of that. If NATO engaged its full-on, absolute, almost instantaneous attack and destruction of known areas that might have arms of mass destruction, I'm not convinced that Russia would be able to successfully nuke, get a successfully nuke overseas. And maybe maybe there's some that disagree with me, but I'm thinking of like if NATO was in optimal position to intercept and to retaliate on these zones, like I don't know, I and maybe this is just wishful thinking, but there are ways to defend against nuclear arms, right?
Well, yeah, there's some ways, but I don't know if I don't know if I don't know if they could entirely reach the U.S., but like I guarantee, like for instance, like Cuba is really close to us.
Yep.
There's I think there are situations, and I don't think it's obviously not like a risk worth taking.
Yeah.
But,
But if Russia sees what is done by the U.S. or the rest of the Western NATO and not going towards its interests, couldn't that be viewed as an act of war? Like sanctions, like economic. I mean, those sanctions are really like the way they're used, the way they're doing sanctions. It is actual war. They talk about targeting and taking out.
it's not really war. It's more of, I mean, you could say it's sort of like an economic war, maybe, I guess. I don't know. What's your opinion, Travis?
On what? Sorry, I had to look at an email there. What was the specifics?
No, I was just saying, like, if Russia sees something being done against its interest, it can see that as an act of war, right? And declare war.
Well, I mean, based on the reading of information that I just did with Divine there, is that, okay, civil war going on, this group of people, these separatists, take up arms and take control of certain areas. And then they essentially go to war with their own country. And then, this has been painted as like when any of these tactics by the Ukrainian military to take this back, take these occupied areas back. Russia is and others are spinning this to call this genocide. Like, I think that's where the crock of crap really is living here.
If he had a genuine argument in just stating where, I don't see that Ukraine should break off from Russia, in it being a part of it culturally, just like with the North and the South in the Civil War, um, that he might have a good argument there, you know, that the break that shouldn't have never happened, and them seceding from having a secession from Russia, it should have never have happened. I mean, with Ukraine and some folks, I mean, Putin does have that mindset. He doesn't acknowledge it. He doesn't recognize Ukraine.
Yeah,
Kind of like
yeah.
what
I understand that, but you also have to look at work with other nations around the world and take into consideration how they feel about the situation. And some people will be like, "Oh, that I'm not going to do that because what the hell does the United States care about, Russia?" But if you're smart, you're going to take into consideration how other nations feel about, this chunk of land that broke off and became its own nation, right?
Russia believe it's nobody's business. But then again, I mean, like without empires, and that if of countries that used to be ruled, they can use everybody can go through the same argument of what was conquered should be reconquered.
Yeah, I'm a little fatigued now. We're gonna end this live stream, you guys. We're gonna be live in just under 2 hours, talking about the Ukraine and Russian war. Make sure you guys drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed. I'm gonna clip out that conversation I had with Divine Evil from Russia, and I'm gonna put that out as its own video. I think it was a great discussion, illuminating. Yeah, I mean, maximize well-being for yourself and those around you. Please minimize the casualties and suffering that is going on in the Ukraine. I don't want to see this break out into a third world war, but if it does, don't panic. Just whatever happens, do not panic. Humanity's going to get through this. And, things are, things will eventually be okay, but we might go through some tough times, right? In the near future here. But hopefully, my hope is that, the Ukrainian people are going to put up enough of a fight, and there will be some diplomacy that takes place, between NATO and Russia and, and the Ukraine and other nations that kind of dissolves the issue here. I hope this can be repaired. I am going to be live almost every day now, you guys, on this channel. So make sure you don't only subscribe, but hit the notification bell. And keep an eye on the channel because we are definitely shadow banned or something funky is going on with YouTube where our content, our live streams in particular, are not being shown to our subscribers. So please keep an eye on the channel and keep an eye on when we are going live. Thank you to everyone who participated, especially Divine Evil. Thank you so much for coming on. Stay safe, Divine. And we'll see what happens. We're going to continue talking about this issue in a couple hours, so join us. We'll be back very soon. I did not get near as much work done as I need to get done, so I will be focusing on doing that in the next couple hours here. Thanks, Witness. Thank you, Conrad, Jason Torn, Cameron, everyone. Thank you very much. As always, let art and science inspire. All right.